The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look at my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Welcome into a soggy Monday edition of Running Points, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. What was it? Karen Carpenter once sang, "Rainy days and Mondays always get me down." So I guess we're down twice
we're
because it's
being-
rainy and it's Monday.
We're being hit with some bad stretch of weather in the last, handful of days, and it doesn't look like it's going to get better tomorrow either.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, it couldn't have come at a worse time for the baseball and softball and spring sports in general, because for the softball kids, this is the last week of the regular season,
Right.
and there's a pretty good chance that you're not going to see much softball this week if the weather forecasts are correct.
And this is the team's last chance to get ready for Now they finally know where they're going to be for tournaments. They can start preparing for the matchups they're gonna see. So to kind of have this last week washed out, they got to be like,
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we're definitely going to talk about. First and foremost, as we mentioned, the softball seedings came out. They're
in baseball, right? They're both out.
Well, baseball didn't
Baseball's
come out.
next week?
Baseball is next week. Actually, baseball is going to be later this week. The seedings are going to be, I believe, the seedings are done tomorrow, and then Thursday it's supposed to be broken out. So we'll see what happens there. But there's a lot of things to talk about.
Just got the text from Steve Leslie. Obviously, this is expected, but officially no games at seen today. So as the day goes along and these cancellations become official, we'll keep updating on
Yeah,
that.
I would imagine with more rain on the way, we're probably not going to be seeing much baseball or softball today for sure. YSU softball team wins their Horizon League championship. The softball tournament will be held at Farmers National Bank Field on the campus of Youngstown State University. The guys, kind of a forgettable weekend in Chicago. They won their first game. They got beat in the final three games. Chicago UIC did to YSU what YSU did to UIC earlier in the year, and that's take 3 out of 4. These two teams are going to be playing each other in the first round of the Horizon League tournament if everything falls into place. UIC is, forget about Wright State for a second. UIC is a threat to Youngstown State as well.
Now, here's what I kind of took away from this weekend, and you probably listened to at least one or two of the games yourself. YSU, I think, is in this position where they know they're good, but they don't exactly know. They don't like. It's one of those things when you're brand new and you're good, you still have to look around and find out why you're good and what makes you so good and consistent. And they fell into this trap this weekend where UIC kind of played this role of, okay, you think you're good, prove it.
Yeah.
Because UIC came in really hot.
Yeah.
And Youngstown State didn't prove it.
No, it was a wake up call, and I think it's a wake up call that is much needed. Penguins will go back home, final 8 games. I think the Penguins get hot the final 8 games. First of all, nobody's beaten them very often at Eastwood, so I would expect the Penguins to be red hot final 8 games of the year, which is perfect because you're going to go right into the tournament on a hot streak, and then let's let the chips fall where they may when the tournament's played at Wright State. The biggest thing over the weekend, the softball seedings were announced. Some surprises. some legitimate surprises, some head scratchers, and some other stuff. But
it was interesting timing because the seeding came out on Saturday night, and then the brackets came out the following night. So from one night, we just knew how the teams were seeded, and then the next morning they did the tournament poll, and then we got where the teams were going to be placed. There were some surprises in seeding, and then there were some surprises where teams decided to go, just like we talked about in basketball. I mean, there are just decisions that were made that maybe weren't expected, but make the tournament very interesting.
Okay, now, first and foremost, and this is completely no disrespect to Austintown Fitch. It's more on the lines of there are 33 teams in Division I, and there is some really, really good talent in Division I. I'm shocked in a great way that Austintown Fitch got the number 1 seed. I know that Fitch is outstanding, and I know that they were going to get a top 4 seed. No questions asked. They're that good. I'm surprised that they got the number 1 seed, not because of their talent, but because there's a lot of teams away from Austintown. You only have 3 or 4 Division I teams in our area, so you know the coaches are going to say, hey, Fitch should be number 1. For all the other out-of-town teams to recognize Fitch as the best team in this tournament, that speaks volumes.
I think the coaches looked at the scores and saw consistently 10-0, 12-0, 23-1, stuff like that, where they were throwing their ace for 4 innings and then they're shutting her down. And they went, okay, we see you. We see you, Austintown Fitch. And they have a pretty good draw. I mean, do you want to start with Division I and just go out with Austintown's bracket?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think they got a pretty good tournament bracket to try to get out districts. A lot of people avoided Fitch and went to, the other bracket.
Yeah, well, Austintown has their own district, and Fitch is going to be in their own district, which I think is home field advantages. And again, I think that they are going to be the overwhelming favorite in this. What I liked is Harding and Howland are going to be playing each other in the first round. It's going to be at Howland. Harding is the 33 seed, and Howland is seeded. Where are they?
I think they're 21.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, there they are.
That's pretty. That was one of the things I thought Howland was a little bit better than 21. I know Division I is deep, but they had some games this year. They're showing flashes of teams that can surprise people.
Yeah.
They took South Range to the brink, who's one of the top Division III teams in the area. Lost to them 4-3. They have a lot of power in that lineup, and they have a pretty decent pitcher that can really navigate some tough lineups. So I think Howland at 21 is a team that can really make some noise. I mean, when they beat Warren Harding, and I'm no disrespect to Warren Harding, but that's a program right now that is just very much struggling to compete.
Okay.
So that the Hoover as the 5 seed might have some trouble. I mean, with Howland at that 5-21 matchup.
How surprised are you that all 4 of the local teams said, we're staying home? We're not going anywhere. We're staying home. If we get to the districts, we're going to go to Fitch. We're not going to go to Euclid. We're not going to go to Timbuktu. We're going to stay in Austintown. How surprised are you all 4 teams decided to be in that district?
Kind of really surprised, because I thought there'd be 1 or 2 teams that wanted the unfamiliarity and wanted teams that didn't see them yet this year and wanted, because sometimes that can really play to your advantage, especially in a sport like softball when they haven't seen your pitcher, they have no idea what she throws or what kind of movement she puts on her spins. So I was kind of shocked that not at least one team, but the other option was Massillon. In the region, it was either you go to Massillon or you go to Austintown.
Yeah.
And if you go to Massillon, you have to deal with Perry, Ellett, you have to deal with Solon, you have to deal with Willoughby South, you have to deal with Green. Louisville is in that bracket. So the other bracket is kind of really bunched up with a lot of competitive teams with each other. So maybe the local team saw the Austintown Fitch bracket and said, yeah, Fitch is probably the best team in this district, but the rest of the bracket is open for business.
Well, consider this. Walsh Jesuit, Painesville Riverside, Massillon Perry, the 2, 3, and 4 seeds all said, we want no part of this team.
Right, and Walsh has like 3 Division I players on their roster. So even they said, we'll see you later, Austintown.
North Canton Hoover is the 5 seed. They're staying in the in the Fitch district. Greene said no, thank you. New Philadelphia said hell no. Chardon said no. Eastlake North said no. Boardman is the next highest at 10. Right. So you essentially have the 1, the 5, and the 10, and Boardman is looking at this going, we have a legitimate shot to get to a district championship game here.
I'm surprised Boardman made that decision to stay with Fitch before they played Fitch, because they were scheduled to play Fitch this weekend. If they had already played Fitch and they kind of understood where they stood measuring stick-wise with Austintown Fitch, that decision would make a lot more sense. But they're scheduled to play Fitch today and tomorrow. It might be tomorrow, Wednesday. It might be Wednesday and Thursday at this point. But they had that measuring stick before you make that decision. I was kind of surprised, but I guess like a lot of other local teams, they just decided the familiar is better than going and playing a bunch of teams that you've never seen before and you have no idea what they're going to bring to you.
Yeah, so I mean, Fitch is the overwhelming favorite to win Division I district. And a lot of other teams, a lot of the top teams said no, thank you, and they're going to go elsewhere. So this is a really good day for Austintown Fitch. Great day in that they stay home as the number 1 seed. They get to choose where to go, and I mean it's a no-brainer. You're gonna stay home. You're gonna go to Fitch.
And we talked about this with basketball in Division I. More than any other district, you can kind of ignore the seedings because we saw 15 seeds beat 5 seeds in basketball because the talent is so much parity in Division I. It's almost like the 18 seed is just as good as the 8 seed because the scheduling and the disbanded talent. I mean, we saw it all the time in basketball. So that's why I say Howland can probably make some noise even though they're the 21 seed. More than any other district, more than any other division, the seeding doesn't mean as much.
The other issue about that is, frankly, we haven't seen any of these teams, with the exception of Fitch, Howland, Harding, Boardman. We might have seen 1 or 2 of these other teams, but by and large, we haven't seen the majority of these teams. So that also comes into play.
We're scheduled to see Walsh Jesuit Wednesday. They're supposed to come into Ursuline and play at YSU softball complex,
which would be interesting.
That'll be a fun because Ursuline's the 1 seed in Division III, and Walsh is the 2 seed all the way up in Division I, and that would be a heck of a last kind of tournament sharpener for both teams.
All right, so we've went over Division I. We're going to go over Division II right now. And what did we say? D2 and D3. We were really looking forward to hearing what the draws were going to be, how this was going to break out. Division II, a little bit of a surprise in that Canfield's not the number 1 seed. Marlington is.
Yeah,
but then it's not really that big of a surprise because Marlington has owned their league and they're. By all accounts, they're a really good team.
I got to see Marlington play against West Branch earlier, and they're very solid. I mean, they have a lineup that can beat you 1 through 9. They have 2 pitchers they can throw at you. They're going to be hard to beat. And West Branch is still scheduled to play them. They were supposed to play last week. It got rained out. And then they were supposed to play today. It got rained out. So they're still waiting on that Marlington game. And we're going to have to see how that goes because West Branch can split with Marlington and earn a share of the EBC.
Well, here's the interesting part of this is we look at West Branch, a team that Marlington beat decisively in the first time around. West Branch is the 5 seed in Division II. So that pretty much tells you there is a disparity in the after 5. But Canfield is the 2. Aurora, who I haven't seen this year.
No, me neither.
They're number 3. Poland is 4. West Branch is 5. And then you go into the teams that are going to be somewhat contending. Hubbard locally is number 7. Girard is number 9. Lakeview is 16. Struthers is 17. Salem is 22. Niles 23. East 24. Cheney 25. And a 2016 field. Obviously, Marlington is they're a tough team.
Hubbard's a sleeper, and yeah, I've said this before. Hubbard's been a team that has been on the losing end of some really close games against some really good teams. I mean, Ursuline walked them off. Marlington walked them off. Marlington had to have a walk-off against Hubbard to beat them. So that's a perfect spot for Hubbard to still have some favorable first-round matchups, but then be low enough that they can sneak up on some teams and maybe make some noise.
Well, and Hubbard is staying home. They're in the Hubbard district,
right.
But so is Marlington. As far as
that's the other thing. I'm surprised that they're not doing what they did in basketball and saying that the highest seed hosts all the way through, no matter who it is. So even if Marlington wins, the district is going to be at Hubbard. So something that we're seeing different than basketball, where the districts are in predetermined spots instead of at the host seeds place all the way up until regional.
Yeah, that's different. I didn't expect that. I expected the OHSAA to follow the same rule, where the home team would get home field advantage all the way to the district championship game.
Obviously, they're trying to find fields that are a little bit more suitable to handle some weather.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful with that. If you can have some. If you're going to have some...
Yes.
I'm sorry, this lost my...
You're getting the full body shot now.
That went whoop.
Yeah.
Whatever my train of thought was, it just went really off the rails.
Okay.
And it's gone. What was that? Hubbard softball.
Yeah.
I was talking about the fields and the fields.
The field for...
There are some fields that can take weather, some fields they can't. Drainage system. I think I was going for drainage system. The fields that have the drainage and can take a little bit of weather are probably going to be the best ones suited to host tournaments.
Well, Canfield is also in the sectional at Hubbard, which is weird. Because they're the 2 seed. But Marlington is in it, so is Hubbard, so is Canfield. Aurora is obviously in the Jefferson district as the 3. But how surprised are you that Canfield, the 2, said, "Hey, we ain't scared of Marlington. Let's do this."
I think Canfield has sharpened their teeth very well in this season. And they're like we saw with JFK in basketball, they kind of feel like they can compete with anybody because they've played so many Division I teams. I mean, they have Howland, Fitch, and Boardman are all in their conference, and they've had to play all of them. So they probably feel very confident going into this bracket, knowing that they've played a schedule that has a lot of teams that are up a division.
The real winners in all of this, Aurora, Poland, and West Branch, the 3, 4, and 5 seeds, said, "Hey, you guys, do what you want. You top 2 seeds, do what you want. We're going to come down here in Jefferson, or in this case, up here in Jefferson, and we'll rule the roost up here, and one of us will win a district championship."
I think what they did was they said, okay, if the 1 and 2 are going to go together, all of a sudden this other district becomes open for the taking, which, once again, I hate to keep bringing up basketball, but that's what we saw in basketball when JFK decided to take McDonald's district. The other one became really wide open, and I think a lot of these schools said, why would we go fight with the 1 and 2 seeds when we can just go have our own district and have a legitimate shot at winning one?
Now, I think Hubbard basically said, you know what, we're going to stay at Hubbard because we have a really good chance to do some damage in our own place. So why should we go anywhere else?
Why wouldn't you?
It's home field advantage. Perry is the 8, Girard is the 9, West Geauga is the 10, West Yaga and Perry decided to go to Jefferson, and Girard decided to stay in Hubbard. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But like I said, this is a lot of strategy coming into this Division II tournament, in Canfield doing what Warren JFK boys did in Division IV, saying, we're not scared of the top seed. We think we can match up well with them. It worked for JFK boys. I don't know if it's going to work for the Canfield girls in this softball tournament or not.
I think they have a very good chance, especially because Marlington hasn't seen them yet, and that's probably something that went into that decision. Marlington hasn't played Canfield, hasn't seen their arms. One of the things that makes Canfield very dangerous is they have, I think it was 3 sets of sisters on their team that just give this team this sense of unbelievable chemistry and togetherness and belief in each other. And I've seen Canfield either be down in a game and come back, or take a tough loss and bounce back from it really quickly. I mean, this is a team that they exemplify that never say die attitude, and I think it's because they are so tight-knit and they still do believe in each other so much that there's almost never a situation where you feel like Canfield's out of the game.
And if you're Marlington...
So like a 4-run lead's not going to cut it.
Yeah. And if you're Marlington, you look at this and say, okay, you want to disrespect us by coming into our place and disrespect our league? And look, I mean, if I'm any team out of that league with Marlington and West Branch and Salem, I'm going to have a chip the size of a small village on my shoulder, as if to say, all of you guys, specifically in the Northeast 8 and some of you other conferences, you don't look at us the same way you should. We're going to pound the crap out of you and make us respect you. That's what. If I was Marlington, I would be pissed right now in a good way, saying, "Oh, you want to come to our neighborhood and be in our district and show some disrespect like that? No, we're going to show you how tough we can be and take it out on everyone and hope that Canfield is your opponent in the finals, so you can just have some fun with that."
And then that's what's fun, because you have this chip on your shoulder. You're fighting to prove the other team wrong, but you have to get there first.
Oh, exactly. And that's where, like I said, you have to take it out on every single team that you're playing.
That's what makes these tournaments so fun, is because softball, baseball is so finicky, so much more finicky than basketball. I mean, you can see a big upset if someone just comes up and they're not hitting their spots, pitching or whatever. It's over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I still wish that like the state tournaments and maybe even the regionals were series 2 out of 3. Because, then you really find out who the best team in that bracket is, especially the state. Like, everyone in the state tournament deserves to be there. They fought their way all the way through. And if I would feel better if you didn't have, like, I've seen some state championships won on, like, a fluke wild pitcher or something like that. It's like, okay, but are they really, like, let's find out who the real best team is by having them come out again tomorrow and win again.
Look, this is how they have it, so you better have some luck on your side.
Do you think that would be fun to see, like the high school move to a 2 out of 3 in the state?
Well, I don't want my softball to be played till August, so
just one extra game.
But where are we starting that? If we're starting that in the regionals, people in the districts are going to go, wait a second,
right,
what's going on here? And then if you start it in the district...
I would say just do it state and be like, hey, it's state, it's 2 out of 3. And people would probably accept that because it's state, it's a different level.
If you want to do it in the state finals, I'm good with that. State semifinals, you still got to get to the state finals. And then if you get to the state finals and you want to do a 2 out of 3... But then, if you're doing that, you're looking at 4 divisions. Oh boy, that's gonna be an extra 2 days in the tournament. And I don't know if the OHSAA would be willing to pay 2 more days worth of rent to that gorgeous facility.
You mean the $O sign? $.
I'm just saying, it's it's a non-revenue sport,
I know.
and I don't know if they would. I don't know if they would want to do it or not. But, I mean, look, in a perfect world, I agree with you, but only in the state finals, where, especially in baseball. Basketball, No.
No,
You're still going to
we're
do
talking-
one and done.
Because the
Football, you're still going to do one and done.
Right.
But baseball, only because
it's such a finicky sport.
the pitching is so finicky and just,
But
yeah,
then
you would have to do 2 out of 3.
Some people, and I guess some people would make the argument that that's what makes high school baseball kind of fun. The fact that
Oh, yeah.
that like you have, any team can beat anybody, because if the team has one bad day, all of a sudden they're state champion. Because if you have series, then all of a sudden it's a lot harder to get an upset. It's a lot harder to, because you have to beat the team twice. That's why, in college, usually the plucky team that comes up and they get to the College World Series or whatever, eventually they're going to lose because they have to beat the top dog twice. They can't just catch them on a bad day. They have to come and catch them again.
Well, unless, of course, they breeze through their bracket and then just
Right.
say, beat us twice.
Right.
But,
Unless you're, oh, jeez. Oh, the
the Chanticleers.
Chanticleers. What's the Coastal Carolina?
Yeah.
I don't know why my brain is gone today.
Yeah.
Coastal Carolina. Unless you're Coastal Carolina in baseball,
Yeah, they got hot at the right
that was an
time.
amazing run.
No, it was absolutely. They got hot at the right time. And when you get hot at the right time, magical things happen.
There were probably so many Google searches that year on what the heck is a Chanticleer? What is Chanticleer? What is Chanticleer?
Definition of Chanticleer, please. Or when Aaron Rodgers takes over Jeopardy, because clearly he's going to.
The executives came out and said he's like in the final 4 to people they want to take over.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me.
But he can't do that and keep playing.
That's why I think we got what we got on draft night, which we'll get into.
You think he'll just retire and be like, I'm going to go host Jeopardy?
There's a really good chance that happens, but we'll get into that
All right.
a little later.
Talk about that.
Because there's...
Aaron Rodgers says, peace out to NFL to host Jeopardy.
Hey, I'll take correct statements for 500, please. We have 2 other divisions to go. The division that I am just absolutely giddy over, and you look at the 23 teams that are in this district, and the amount of talent that is in the top. Oh, good Lord, I don't want to disparage anyone, but let's just say that only 2 teams are going to be going to the regional tournament, and there is going to be a lot of teams that are going to be staying at home. First and foremost, when we get into Division 3, which we're going to right now, first and foremost, the single most intriguing thing that I am looking at is the South Range District and the absolute possibility, the very real possibility of 2 teams playing that should be playing in all sports on a yearly basis. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The 2 schools in question, you need to drop your swords, drop your axes, drop whatever dangerous objects you have, shut your pie hole, get to the table, and hammer out an agreement to get back on the field, on the court, on the diamond, and everywhere in between. Crestview and Columbiana, there is a very real chance these 2 teams play each other in the district semifinals at South Range. And I hope that this happens, because I will be there in person to see this.
Right. You know what I love about the tournaments? Don't care what your rivalry is or what the reasons if you're playing, you're playing, and you can't do anything about it. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? Like, you have to play them. That's what I love. And hey, if we see Crestview South Range to get in the district championship, that'll be 2 districts in a row that it's been Crestview South Range in a district final. And how about South Range getting the double bye? They're in district semifinals right now.
Yeah,
They haven't done anything.
I don't quite understand how that happened.
It's an odd number of teams, 23, and they just fell into that bracket that more teams wanted to go to the other one instead of South Range.
Yeah, that was weird. But South Range gets the 2 seed.
I knew. Well, you come in knowing 23, someone's probably going to get a double bye because it's 23 and not 24 or whatever. But I thought, man, Ursuline's going to get the double bye because the way Ursuline's been playing, no one's going to want to touch them. And Ursuline got a full bracket, and South Range is sitting there with the double bye.
Well, Ursuline went to South Range, first and foremost, which really upset the apple cart. Because South Range is like, wait a second. We want to be at home. Well, they didn't get a chance to be at home because Ursuline said, we're taking over your home. You want to come to our place? Or, i.e., your place?
Well, I'm
come
surprised.
follow me.
I'm surprised that YSU isn't a host. And they can't be because that probably happened because the Penguins said, wait a minute.
Yeah,
we're hosting the Horizon League tournament.
Exactly. Yeah, we're going to take the Horizon League tournament. Thank you very much.
So I bet Ursuline kind of, okay, we have to, and then all of a sudden now. But the funny thing is that Canfield district, if I remember right, isn't lined up. No, it isn't. So it isn't lined up in the regional with South Range's district. Because South Range is in the Leavittsburg district, and they're matched up with the Creston district. So we wouldn't see an Ursuline South Range matchup until
the regional championship.
Finals.
Yeah, that could be entertaining.
Which I hope that happens because one, YSN always loves it when two YSN teams are in regionals because it's a win-win.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing is that's a matchup I've been just clamoring for all season. Like we got to see these two teams go at it. And you're not going to see it in the district. You're not going to see it in the regional semis, but you might just see it in the regional final. And how about that? Those two teams going at the chance of getting to a state championship.
Well, there's a team up in Trumbull County that's saying not so fast because we're going to be having a lot to say about this. And the team in question, you were adamant saying last week, Champion will go to the Ursuline district because this makes a lot of sense. They didn't throw their ace, and it does. It makes a lot of sense. They didn't throw their ace. Ursuline didn't see their ace, and here's Champion going, nah, we're going to stay in the LeBray district, and we'll go up against South Range.
Oh well, Paul Munson just texted me and said the Canfield bracket games are being played at YSU, not South Range.
Okay, gotcha.
So I don't. They will be played at YSU. So it must not conflict with Horizon League tournament play.
Well, the district championships are May 18th and 19th.
Which means that would be the YSU still has one more regular season series in the Horizon League.
Yeah, because I'm looking real quick to the
we have a phone call by the way.
To the Horizon League standings. Now let's take this phone call real quick. You're on the Monday edition of Running Point. What's going on?
Hey Ron, it's Paul.
Hey
Paul. Anthony read my text. So South Range will not be the host. Those games will be played at YSU, and the bracket isn't complete because South Range doesn't have a double bye. Springfield and Conneaut are the game. The winner of that game will play South Range.
Oh well,
so
okay.
They didn't update that completely the way they should have. So
okay,
there you go.
Okay, and the reason why that this is able to do this is the weekend of the 15th, the 13th, 14th, and 15th is the Horizon League championships. So you can have. The district still played at Farmers National Bank Field because the district games would be played the following week, the 18th and 19th. So the Horizon League is already going to be complete.
When's the Horizon League tournament?
Horizon League tournament's going to be the 13th, 14th, and 15th, or the 14th, 15th, and 16th. So that's going to be a few days before.
But that's funny because isn't Ursuline supposed to have a home game on the 13th for their first tournament game? So they're going to have to play somewhere else. Right?
Well, it would be the 14th, 15th, and 16th. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be the 14th, 15th, and 16th would be the Horizon League tournament.
And then the semis are the 18th.
And then the semis are the 18th and 19th. So that makes sense now. All right, Paul. Appreciate it. That makes sense. That makes sense. So this is now in Youngstown. So now it really makes sense.
So South Range isn't even hosting a district anywhere. Like no tournament games, no district tournament games at South Range, which is weird because we usually.
Well, they're hosting the sectional finals.
Yeah, but I mean, like there's not going to be any district games at South Range.
No
district.
No, that district will be at be at Youngstown.
Once again, it's strange because we were saying that trying to find fields that can take weather, and South Range is one of those fields. So. Interesting.
Yeah, well, we'll go back into the seedings. Ursuline says, we'll take the Farmers National Bank. So that now makes sense instead of South Range. Although that's kind of a snarky move if it was South Range, but they're the top seed. They can do whatever they want. Since this is the Farmers National Bank field, hey, that's their home.
And once again, even though South Range can take weather, YSU can take more weather. And because, they have the turf outfield.
Yeah. But the team that we were looking at in all of this was Champion. We kind of figured Champion was going to be the 3 seed, and they turned out to be the 3 seed. And Champion said, we'll go up to South Range, we'll follow South Range at La Brea, which Columbiana and Crestview said, well, we'll gladly follow Ursuline.
Right.
So
I think that decision was based on Champion. I don't think Crestview wanted to see Champion again.
No, probably not. Yeah, that was one of those, we need to get the hell away from this team. Not because we're that much worse than them, but we don't play very well against them.
The mental block.
That's a mental block.
And the mental block, when you add, we're playing a tournament game to that.
Yeah, no.
It's a bad form.
Stay far away from that team.
But then you wonder if that mental block will show up if they have to play Ursuline, because Ursuline's going to be they have this intimidation factor this year, because every team that has come to Ursuline has just been put down. Even the Division II team that comes all the way from Columbus, and Ursuline comes back and wins 4-3. There's got to be this kind of, the way they've been beating people, the way they've been beating good teams. They took it to Champion, 13-6.
I think if Crestview
that's got to be one of those. Oh my gosh!
Look, I think if Crestview or Columbiana get to the district finals, I think they're going to be loose as all get out, because they have to know they have no shot.
Well,
no disrespect,
no shot, but they have to know that they're the team, obviously, with no pressure.
Yeah,
because Ursuline. Everyone's talking about Ursuline right now is they can win a state championship.
Yeah, on paper they have no shot.
Right.
So they can sit back and go, hey, you know what? We get to the district championship game, all bets are off. We're going to be loose, and there's not going to be a problem. But if you got Crestview in the Champion district and they have Champion in the district finals, they're not going to feel that, because they're going to be like, yeah, we played them twice and they did what. No.
Then there's that other, would you want that second chance to prove that you're on Champion's level? You know what I mean? Because I think everyone on that team knows that they didn't play anywhere close to their best.
Well, after the first inning they did, but
So do you want that? Obviously they didn't, because they didn't pick the bracket. But the mental aspect of, do you want that second chance to prove to not just yourselves but the other team that you are competitive against that team, and you are, because now you have to wait until next year or down the line and if you make it that far, it would be the regional final.
Yeah, I don't want any part of them. It was, look, the first time around you played them, they scored 10 runs, and you're like, okay, look, let's get past this first inning, and then, oh, by the way, the next day, 24 hours later, they scored 12 runs in the first inning.
You're going into that second game, and you're like, there's no way the first inning can be worse.
And it happened, and you're like, okay, we're not playing these people anymore. This is ridiculous.
You never say, how could it get worse? Because the universe will come and answer you.
Yeah, well, and look, if for Crestview, get away from them, and they had a choice, like all the teams do, to determine where you want to go, and Crestview said, we don't want any part of South Range or Champion. We'll come into the Ursuline.
I think Crestview has seen enough of South Range in the tournament.
Well, and again, I think when Columbiana made the decision, hey, we'll go into the Ursuline, Crestview's like,
because look, Crestview and South Range have been developing this tournament rivalry in girls' sports the last several years. We saw it in volleyball, we saw it in basketball, we saw it in 2019 it was volleyball, basketball, and softball all came down the Crestview South Range. And I think they were just like, let's get something new. Let's have someone that doesn't know us as much, someone that's we're going to be able to get loose again. Because maybe they will be able to be a little bit more loose against Ursuline, even though Ursuline's the 1 seed and they've done all that they've done. It's not someone that's quote-unquote familiar with Crestview as much as South Range.
Look, and I don't know this to be a fact, But I will say this, and again, I don't know this scenario to be a fact, but I'll say this: if I'm correct on this, the teams all get a choice until one bracket is filled. Then the rest of the teams have to go to another bracket.
Obviously, the lower seeds don't get as much of a choice because
exactly because if a bracket is filled, the rest of the seeds automatically have to go to the one. So here's what I'm going to go. If they're going in order, Ursuline, hey, we're going to stay home. We're going to do the Youngstown State. South Range, we don't want to play you guys. We'll go up in LeBray. Champion said, okay, we don't want Ursuline. We'll go play South Range. Columbiana says, we'll go into the Ursuline bracket. I'm telling you right now, and I don't know this to be 100%, but if that scenario is true, I will guarantee you Crestview looked at this and said, we're following Columbiana because, by God, we're going to play this team. It wouldn't surprise me, Anthony. It wouldn't surprise me. And like I said, if these two teams play each other in the district semifinals.
That sounds like a Greg Escrow type way of thinking. I can hear him saying that. Like, Columbiana, maybe they just had the idea. Once the seeds came out, they knew they were behind Columbiana. They said,
follow them.
Stick it to you. We're coming for you, bud.
Listen, and if I hope that these two teams play each other in the district semifinals, because, like I said, and this is
that's going to be two pitchers that aren't going anywhere. You know, in Gamble, the freshman, and Caden Sutton, who's a junior.
Yeah.
And
look, in a perfect scenario, these two teams play each other in the district semifinals, and you get a great game, hopefully. So everyone in the community of Columbiana and the Crestview School District, because it's not really a community because it's outside of Columbiana, drop your swords and let's get these two back on playing sports.
The worst thing that could happen would be a blowout,
or a bench clearing brawl. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
You had to speak it into existence.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So
I have never seen that in high school softball, and I hope I don't.
I hope I don't either. No. It's bad enough that you get it.
Now I've seen parents fight with each other.
Oh yeah.
We might see that.
Well, I think this is long overdue, and I am really looking forward if these two teams can survive the sectionals. These two teams playing in the district semifinals is going to be pure gold.
You want to take a break and then go over Division 4?
Absolutely.
Maybe we can squeeze in Division 4 before we get Dana on.
Well, yeah, actually, that's a better move. Let's squeeze in Division 4.
Come back at Division 4 and then call right to Dana.
Yeah, because Division 4 is going to be fun.
Right.
So let's take a timeout. We'll go Division 4, then we'll take another timeout prior to the top of the hour, get Dana on. And jam-packed Monday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet, Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Back in a bit.
New things happen all day. Some are good, some not so good. In today's complicated world, while you're busy working, playing, and living life, we're busy helping you make sense of the day's news. And there's only one place where it comes together with clarity, context, and accountability. It's 21 News at 6 with me, Madison Tromler, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 6. It's what the day's news really means to you.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Hi, this is Jim Myers with Myers Family Insurance, your local Medicare and retirement resource. We're excited to have sports back. Whether you're on the field or cheering from the stands, sports unifies communities and brings hope for the future. We're all one team working together. At Myers Family Insurance, we know the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Your first and last stop with your tax return should be with me, Tracy Bryden at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. No other dealer goes the extra mile to bring you the largest selection of vehicles at one convenient location. With guaranteed credit approval, I will find you the right vehicle and the right financing options for you. I am ready to go the extra mile to show you why no other dealer sells more cars, finances more, and gets you more for your refund than Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Welcome back to a Monday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. All right, we have gone through the first three divisions in our softball tournament pairings. Let's go to Division 4. Surprise, surprise, Matthews, the top seed in this tournament. McDonald gets the 2, East Canton the 3, Brookfield 4, Lisbon 5. Anthony, how surprised were you to see Matthews get the top seed in this district tournament?
I think the season they put together and the record they put together and the fact that McDonald got a couple losses towards the end there, they've earned it, absolutely. When you do what they do, they've earned the 1 seed. So I'm not surprised at all. I mean, I think if McDonald was able to run the table, then they would have been the 1, but they didn't, and Matthews took care of business.
All right, so Matthews decides to go to the Candlelight Knolls district up in Warren, and McDonald said, you know what, Jackson Milton is familiar territory for us. We play there once a year. That's a great home for us, so we'll go there. The surprising part of this is East Canton said, we'll take on McDonald. That's a little surprising. Brookfield said, no, we'll go up to Candlelight Knolls. Lisbon said, you know what, we'll go to Candlelight Knolls as well. So you've got the 1, the 4, and the 5 heading up to the Candlelight Knolls district, making things pretty interesting. And the 2 and the 3 in McDonald and East Canton, along with the 6 in Bristol, in the Jackson Milton district. So things really didn't go completely off kilter. I mean, there you got 3 of the top 6 teams in one district, the other 3 in the other district. So things kind of sort of played out the way it should have been played out.
Yeah, I think I was kind of surprised when I saw East Canton go to the 2, because East Canton has been very good this year, and they might be the best team in this district. They really might be as the 3 seed. And I thought they'd just go and try to prove that they earned the 1 seed by going to the 1 seeds district. But they decided to go and try to square off with McDonald. Maybe they thought that would prepare them a little bit more for their regional play to face a pitcher like Bree Callow at that caliber. The other district's going to be interesting because it's going to be a couple of teams in, especially in Lisbon, that have proven their worth in the regular season with the schedule they play. And Matthews, who can't control their schedule, so it's not a knock on them. They haven't played the best schedule in the world. They get to prove how good they are in the tournament. And they get to use this tournament as a stamp to their season to say, we put together this record against teams that were lesser, but now we're going to stamp of approval and say we are this good, we belong here. And I think it's going to be the mixing of which team means more. Lisbon has already sharpened their teeth a little bit. They're already kind of ready for the tournament. Matthews coming in really hungry, but not necessarily prepared schedule-wise for the play they're going to see. So
honestly, I think the team that has the better schedule of Matthews and Lisbon is Brookfield, and they're going to be in the Candlelight Knolls district. I mean, this is a team that's had to play champion. They've had to play Crestview. They've had to play LeBray. They've had to play Liberty,
Newton Falls.
So they've played some of the best of the best of the best. And I believe they played Matthews in a non-conference schedule. I might be wrong on that, but I believe they did play Matthews earlier in the year.
And see if you're right.
So Brookfield is going to be playing in the first round against Ashtabula St. John, which is the 19 seed. I'm impressed that Leetonia got a 12 seed in this very difficult district, and they get a home game against Bloomfield. The winner of that game will head up to Badger to take on the 8 seed in Badger. Matthews is going to get the winner of Southern Local, the 23 seed, and Fairport Harbor. Fairport Harbor is the where are they? Fairport Harbor is the 22 seed. So Fairport Harbor, even though they're the 22 seed, they get a home game because they're playing the 23 seed Southern Local Indians, and the winner gets Matthews. So
Brookfield has not played Matthews.
Okay, then I stand corrected.
Their non-conference schedule, they have Columbiana, Springfield, Pymatuning Valley. They played Chalker twice, and Chalker's not in that MVAC, so that's a...
Yeah, and Chalker's the 14 seed in this Division 4
They
tournament.
beat them 6-0 and 10-3.
Okay.
Played Memorial twice. That's a conference game. They went over to the other part of the MVAC and played Western Reserve and Jackson Milton.
How did they do against those two teams?
They beat Western Reserve 14-0, and they beat Jackson Milton 6-2.
Okay, Jackson Milton's the 9, Western Reserve is the 10 in this tournament.
They split with Crestview. They lost 3-1, and then they beat Crestview earlier in the season. I believe the second Crestview game was it was 9-2 win. So they kind of lost 3-1, won 9-2, split with Crestview. They lost to Newton Falls, and they were scheduled to play them again, but obviously it got rained out. Scheduled to play LeBray, that got rained out. They played LeBray on Friday and won 12-3.
Okay.
And then they lost to McDonald over on last Wednesday, 2-1.
And McDonald is the 2 seed.
Right.
So that pretty much tells you there's not much difference between the 4 and the 2, and Brookfield deciding they want to move into the Candlelight Knolls district where Matthews is. So again, Matthews is the top seed, Brookfield's the 4, Lisbon is the 5. They're in the Candlelight Knolls district. McDonald's the 2, East Canton is the 3, Bristol's the 6. They're in the Jackson Milton district. Obviously, this is going to be fun, and not necessarily the top 2 seeds are not necessarily the favorite in this Division 4 tournament. I'm with you on this. I think Brookfield right now, schedule-wise, has a better schedule than Matthews or Lisbon, and I think that Brookfield on paper might be the best team in Candlelight Knolls, and East Canton on paper might be the best team in the Jackson Milton district.
How about Western Reserve having a chance to set up the rivalry in the tournament, where if they win, they go to Jackson Milton and play 10 versus 9. At
there
Jackson
you go.
Milton in the regional, sectional finals.
Well, did they play each other Friday night?
No, I think it got canceled.
Okay. Because they were supposed to play each other Friday night. It was chilly Friday night, and I told people on Friday, you better be wearing some extra winter gear if this game is played, because it was chilly.
They keep trying to reschedule that game.
Yeah.
And they haven't been able to do it. They played Jackson Milton once on the season, though, did Western Reserve. They lost 10-7. So they're still trying to fit in that second Jackson Milton game. Remember, the first time around, it was supposed to be played on a Friday night at 7 under the lights, and we were really excited about that. So.
Yeah. How cool is it the fact that the regional tournaments in Division 4 are going to be played in the state semifinal and state championship site, Akron Firestone? I mean, I think that's great for the kids going to this region. Let me ask you, if let's say one of our local teams
Division
goes through the region. Is that a great advantage for them? Oh, we played the regional tournament in this place. We're going to play the state semifinals and the state championship game in this place.
Absolutely. Anytime you can get more reps inside that stadium, because that stadium, just like we talk about some basketball stadiums having different dimensions, you got to remember the softball field at Akron Firestone is built for professional softball players. It's got a little, it's bigger. It's got the stadium seating. It's got the atmosphere. So to get used to that in Division 4 and Division 2, both regions are played at Firestone, then that's a big feather in your cap.
I'm surprised the OHSAA is allowing Akron Firestone to host a regional tournament, knowing that whoever comes out of that region in D2 and D4 are going to have a little bit of an advantage in terms of we have played 2 games on this field where none of the teams in the other 3 regions have played a game on this field. That seems to me a bit unfair.
That has always kind of boggled my mind, but then on the other end, you're at the OHSAA, you're probably thinking, the more games we can play on this Firestone Stadium, the better, because of what it is.
Well, it's an electric place.
It's
exciting.
It
is. I have had an opportunity to do a state championship game on terrestrial radio, and a state semifinal game as well. That place is wonderful. Once you walk into that place, there is. I don't want to say the ghosts of the past, but it's an iconic place,
right. I mean,
where that there's been some history in this facility.
Babe Ruth has played on that field.
Yeah.
Back in the 20s. I mean, so you walk in, and not just that, but then you go and say, oh, Monica Abbott pitched here. Jenny Finch won an MPF championship here. Cat Osterman pitched here. You can go over the names, and you step in that circle, and you realize softball legends have pitched in this circle, and you can just take a deep breath and kind of soak that in.
Yeah, it's on a smaller scale, but it's like the old Yankee Stadium where you had, oh, by the way, Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio.
It's softball's equivalent of playing for baseball, playing on an MLB field for a state championship.
There you go.
Because you get to walk on this field knowing that the best of the best have stepped on that dirt.
Yeah, and historic best of the best.
Right.
To where I was saying the old Yankee Stadium, right, where you've seen the best of the best of the best. Here's this Akron Firestone Stadium where in the past you have seen the absolute best walking on this field and playing on this field. It's iconic.
Up until 2017, it was home to a professional softball team. So, I mean, you get those goosebumps a little bit, especially if you're one of the players that is a big fan of college softball and know those names I just dropped. I mean, you get to really geek out a little bit and understand that you're playing on a big field.
And I would imagine most of the kids that are playing softball have probably heard those names, so that's yet another reason why you get excited. But I'm like I said, I'm a little surprised the OHSAA would allow anyone to have what small advantage as it is. I'm surprised they would allow that. But then again, it is what it is, and maybe there's.
And if Poland gets there, they're going to be twice as ready because they just played there this weekend too. So they're going to already have reps there, and then they're going to have reps there in the regionals, and then they'll be ready for the state. But then at the end of the day, it's softball. It doesn't matter where you're playing or how many reps you've had there. You got to go and you got to hit the ball and pitch well. So
and play good defense.
Right.
Yeah, that's what you got to do: pitching, defense, and timely hitting. And hopefully some of our local teams make a deep run. All right, we're going to take a timeout. On the other end, Dana Balish, TV 21 sports director, will join us as he does every Monday at this time. We'll start talking some softball. We'll get into what happened with YSU, the softball and the baseball team. We haven't even touched the NFL draft. And I know Dana's a Browns fan. He has to be loving life right now. I thought the Browns did a great job. Not just the Browns. I thought the city of Cleveland was phenomenal on draft weekend. We will talk about that with 21 Sports Director Dana Balish coming up momentarily. Stick around.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, we go the extra mile for you.
By finding you the right vehicle at the right price.
By giving you confidence in your vehicle with a Greenwood Advantage warranty.
By guaranteeing you financing,
regardless of your situation or credit history.
And by being with you for every mile of your journey. Now, we're going the extra mile for you with an additional $1,500 on your trade, plus the best selection of new and used vehicles in the area.
Visit greenwoodchevrolet.com and tell us how we can go the extra mile for you.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
Jimmy Sutton here, Director of Isle, Purple Cat, and Golden String. We are happy to support YSN and 2 of my favorite people, Scotty Mincher and Super Dave O'Malley. We are an agency that provides services for adults with disabilities. We infuse humor, passion, and joy into their lives. If you know of any folks with disabilities that need our assistance, please contact us.
Your teams work hard and give it all they've got. Well, so does ours, because 21 Sports and YSN give you extra effort when covering local sports. 21 Sports and YSN, winning coverage of our Valley's teams.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Welcome back to a Monday edition of Running Points, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Ron Podesta, Anthony Hartwig with you, joining us as he does every Monday at this time on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. 21 Sports Director Dana Balish. Dana, how are you today, sir?
Doing well, Ron. Yourself?
I'm doing well. The softball tournament pairings announced yesterday. The baseball tournament pairings will be announced later this week. How surprised are you in the fact that Fitch got the number 1 seed? And I don't say this because of their lack of talent. My shock in this is there's only 4 teams from this area where 4 coaches would pump up Fitch. How surprised are you that the other 29 coaches got on board and said, yeah, Fitch is the best team in this district?
Well, I think, Ron, you look at records, you look at who they played, and these softball coaches, they know each other. They know the strengths and weaknesses of each team. And certainly, a record has a lot to go with it, how dominant you are when you win games. They look at the scores, they look at all that stuff, and certainly, it's a well-deserved honor, but I think being a top seed puts a little more pressure on you because everyone's gunning for you. Again, the tournaments don't begin for another week or so. This week is probably going to be a washout maybe until Thursday. So, when the tournament begins in a couple of weeks, I mean, it's pressure. And, these are 15, 16, 17-year-old young ladies, and the pressure gets to them. Anybody involved in athletics kind of knows where you are, the polls and that sort of thing. But, I'm not surprised. I think, again, you look at the records, you look at the competition, you look at who they played, and I think this is the best way to seed teams. The coaches in the district have the final say on where teams are going to go and where they're going to be seated because they see these teams day in and day out or aware of them. So I like the idea. I really, really do.
What were some of your takeaways for the districts as a whole throughout all the 4 divisions that you saw, and what teams decided to do as far as what brackets they decided to go into, and the matchups that we're probably going to see in the next couple of weeks? Well,
I think first of all you got to look at in Division II, Marlington is the top seed, and if you look at it, the highest seed they're going to face, when they get to the the district semifinals, the highest seed they could possibly face is a 9th seed in Girard. So I think Marlington got a great, a great location. They got a first round bye. Canfield is number 2 in that district. Again, the highest seed they will face, could be Hubbard. Both Canfield and Hubbard have first round bye, so they could meet in the district semifinals. And it's where you're playing. Ursuline's the number 1 seed. Matthews is the top seed in their respective districts. So I talked to a lot of coaches, talked to a couple already this morning, and they say, hey, it comes down to pitching. You got to have the pitching, which all teams do, and then you got to get the timely hitting. Some says we got to continue to play small ball and things like that. So, look, I think the biggest surprise, and I don't mean to say surprise, is that, Champion, who has been so dominant in softballs over the last, several years, is not a top seed. And I talked to Coach Weaver several weeks ago. They're a very young team. They have 1 player back from the 2019 team. It's unusual for people who follow softball and who've been covering it for years not to see, Champion on that number 1 line. But Ursuline, Ursuline's there. Ursuline's the number 1 ranked team in the state. They got the number 1 ranking again today in the coaches poll. So, the nice thing about the tournament is it's one and done. If you get onto a hot streak, you can do some damage. And I'm going to go back to, 1995 when the Ursuline basketball team was 10-10 and won the whole thing. So anything's possible at this point.
Yeah, and I looked at the basketball districts and the volleyball districts and whatnot, and in every supersized district leading up to the spring, you did not have a neutral site until the district championship game. How surprised are you the district semifinals are going to be in one spot where the top seed doesn't get another home game in the district semifinals?
Ron, I think you got to look at conditions, and I think you got to look at field, and let's face it, some fields are a little bit better than some others. Look, when it comes to softball, it's 43 feet, it's 60 feet. I don't think that matters. It's a coin flip to determine the home team, I believe, or better or higher seed. Look, some places have better facilities. Some places want to host the district. And I have no problem with that. I look, when you're playing baseball or softball, how many coaches have said we'll go play at 3 in the morning in a dark parking lot? So it doesn't matter. I don't think that's a big thing at all. I think when you get to this point and you're in a district semifinal or a district championship, where you're playing doesn't matter. Who you're playing does, but not where.
If you had to pick maybe 2 or 3 or even 4 teams that you thought had the best chance to make a deep tournament run in the area, what teams come to your mind?
Well, I think you got to look at the obviously Ursuline, sticks out there, number 1 in the coaches poll, and that's statewide. Now they have a 5-point advantage. They did not get the most votes in the coaches poll for the top seed. I mean, I think anything's possible. I think South Range is one of those teams, in Division III where they would play South Range, and I haven't looked at the brackets, but to get out of this area. I think Matthews could be a sleeper in Division IV, although they're ranked 5th in the state. Poland's one of those teams that always seems to hang around. Canfield, I believe, was the number 2 seed. So they're in that region or in that district with Marlington, who's the top seed. So, I think there's some teams that could get out, when you get to the regionals. And again, I talked to a coach, this morning who says, I remember, several years ago we were the top seed. We were, 22-2 and got beat in the regional semifinals. So, you got to be playing well. You got, 6-7 tournament games you got to play. But I think those teams that we see in the polls, are probably the teams that can get out.
Dan DeBalis, 21 Sports Director, joining us on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. I noticed that the OHSAA announcing a couple of hours ago the University of Dayton is going to be the home for the boys and girls state championships in basketball for the next 3 years. let's be honest, Dana. The University of Dayton did a phenomenal job doing the state tournaments, and as far as I'm concerned, it can stay there because I think Dayton is a perfect landing spot. The facilities are phenomenal. The arena isn't as large or as daunting as the arena in Columbus, and I think it's a perfect landing spot.
Well, Ron, again, in this world we live in, you're going to go to a place where you're wanted. And Dayton wanted it. Ohio State didn't want it, and it's simple as that. I knew this was coming. When McDonald was down there to play in the finals, I made 2 trips down there. It's a little bit longer trip for us, but it's a great arena. It's a great venue. It's easy to get to. It's not as distant from the floor. Fans aren't as distant from the floor as they were at the shot. It's compact. It's a great facility, and I think it's a great site for it. Having witnessed it during the pandemic, I thought the state did a great job. And again, you're going to go where you're wanted, and the Ohio State didn't want it, and Dayton did, and it's as simple as that. So I think it's a good job. They stepped to the plate this year when the boys didn't have a place to play, and they stepped up. And I know that has something to do with it. But certainly, for the next 3 years, it's good to say that it's in Dayton.
Is Canton going to be stepping up to the plate and saying we want the state championships in our city in football?
Well, Ron, the state's talking to some people. They're talking to several different sites. Again, you have to keep in mind that that stadium, although it's Canton, the Hall of Fame pretty much runs that stadium. And again, with games being played on Sunday now, how much business would that take away from the Hall of Fame? And I know when it was there in the past, they didn't play Sunday games. They were playing, 3 on Friday, 3 on Saturday, at 2 different sites, and they didn't have to go to Sunday. Well, now they're going to Sunday, so I think the state's going to do everything in their power to keep it in one site. I thought Massillon did a great job last year. I think they're in contention to host it again. I think Crew Stadium in Columbus will have a new look to it. I think they're obviously interested in hosting it. Obetz, I think, has some interest as well. So I think the state's talking to 3 or 4 different sites. You got to look at finances. You got to look what the rent's going to be, and move on from there. But as of now, they do not have a site for the 2021 state championships, but they'll get that done, I would think, Ron, in the next month or two. And again, I think those sites and maybe a couple of others are interested as well.
While we're talking about basketball, 20 minutes ago you tweeted out that you had a conversation with Coach John Collin, who just left South Range, and he said that, to quote him on your tweet, he said if everything works out, he would be an assistant with Coach Brink at Springfield. Can you talk about that conversation at all, and what Collin said to you, and how much he still wants to be a part of the game, even though he's not going to be a head coach anymore?
Well, he's been around the game for 48 years as and being involved in basketball. He was at Brookfield back in the 70s. Moved over to Canfield for 20 years. And basically he has 597 wins, and he wants to get to that magical number of 600. He says he told me he's known Coach Brink for many, many years. If everything works out, being approved by the Springfield Board of Education, and more than likely he'll be an assistant coach for Springfield, who should have another pretty good team coming back. I asked him, look, you're 3 away from 600, and he says, hey, you never know, But I think, Coach Collin is one of those guys, if he can mentor a young coach, go for a year, and then hand that program over to a young coach, I think he would do that. If there wasn't COVID this year, probably would have got to 600. But I think he loves the game of basketball. He loves teaching the game of basketball, and he'll have that opportunity at Springfield again if all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted.
Dana Ballas, 21 Sports Director, joining us on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Over the weekend, the YSU softball team winning a Horizon League regular season championship, which is huge news because the softball tournament will now be held at Farmers National Bank Field on the campus of Youngstown State University. That'll be a first. Meanwhile, the guys, after winning the first game against UIC, dropped the final 3 games. They're still in third place. The magic number to get into the tournament is down to 7. I expect Youngstown State to be in the tournament, but they will be traveling, unlike the women's softball team.
Yeah, it's the first time, as you mentioned, Ron, that they're going to host on the campus. I remember several years ago, the tournament was at McCune Park in Canfield, where YSU actually won the tournament and went to the NCAA regionals. I think they played in Michigan. And, it's nice to see it on campus. The softball team has played really, really well over the past, as a matter of fact, all season. And, that's good to see. Baseball team, as you mentioned, stumbled a little bit. And, should get into the tournament, but as you mentioned, we'll be on the road. And again, with only, 5 teams making the tournament, it's I'm not saying it almost seems like it's even more difficult probably to win because everyone now knows that, hey, look, we have a 1 in 5 shot and everyone plays their best.
And it will still be, I think, the same format, double elimination that the Horizon League tournament usually is, which makes it tougher for the teams that now that it's going to be 1 through 4 and it's you have to beat a team twice. It's going to be a fun time, and I'm glad YSU can host. When you talk about baseball seeding and brackets are going to be coming out later this week, what kind of things are you looking for and predicting for the local baseball tournament and the way that that'll be seeded and districts will be handed out?
Well, if it works the same way as basketball, the 1 and 2 seed do not have to go off as a bracket. They can go, in the same bracket, and I think that's interesting. I think, when you don't, back in the day, if you were the top seed, you'd have to go on the top part of the bracket, and the lower seed would have to go on the bottom part. The way it works in basketball is with the 2 districts combining in the 1 district, you can go on any line, and I think that will be interesting to kind of see. I would think Canfield would be the top seed in Division II. South Range probably won't get a top seed in D3, but should be in the top 5, I would guess. And again, you look at some teams who play close to 20 games. You look at some other teams who have played, 10 games. So how do you kind of decipher that? That's why I think this is a great idea for the coaches to vote, and it's been around for some time, and I think it's the fairest way because the coaches know, the strengths, the weaknesses of certain teams, and the competition level they have played. But I think, again, we'll have our fair share of teams, in the top 4, top 5. But again, when you got that number 1 seed, that's a bullseye on your back, and certainly, Ursuline will find that out. Matthews will find that out. On the softball side, in baseball, Salem is a 17-3 team. Canfield's undefeated. There'll be some pretty good baseball teams.
Dan, a couple more things before we let you go. The Missouri Valley Football Conference took a serious hit in the FCS playoffs over the weekend, where 2 teams were eliminated. Surprisingly enough, North Dakota State was one of them. They got beat by Sam Houston State 24-20. North Dakota was beaten by double digits at the hands of James Madison. South Dakota State, the only team that moves on, they beat Southern Illinois in an all-conference quarterfinal matchup. So South Dakota State is carrying the banner for the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Now, obviously, this is a pandemic year, but does this kind of does this change things a little bit for the Missouri Valley Football Conference in terms of their reputation as being the absolute best conference in FCS?
First of all, Ron, you put 5 teams in out of a 16-team field. The North Dakota State game, they lost to Sam Houston State 24-20. It wasn't even that close. North Dakota State scored on a punt return and a kickoff return. They had no offense yesterday. The game was a lot close. As a matter of fact, one of the interesting stats is in the third quarter they had 1 yard of total offense and scored 15 points. So I think when you put 5 teams in, and again, you have to keep in mind is that every conference didn't play. Every team didn't play in the spring. So does it put a dent in it? I don't think it puts a dent in it. Does it put a dent into North Dakota State? I think so. But I think South Dakota State, from the start was, I thought, the best team. North Dakota played well against the James Madison team, but again, James Madison has been there and done that. And I guess the nice thing about, the playoffs is that, 2 of the games or 3 of the games were on, ESPN television, normal TV, ESPN2 or ESPN, which I thought was good for the FCS play. And, I think one of the semifinal games is going to be on ABC or ESPN this week. So I think that's good for the conference, but I don't think the Missouri Valley Conference took a hit. When you put 5 teams in a 16-team field, that's really, really good.
And obviously, the last thing we got to talk about is the NFL draft. And, we always talk about how big of a Browns fan you are. And they had a really good draft. What do you take away from the Cleveland draft and hosting in Cleveland? I know you had a couple of people down there at the draft to kind of talk to some fans from Mahoning Valley that made the trip. I know the weather wasn't fantastic, but people still made the trip. So what was your takeaway from the draft in general and then the Browns picks that they made?
Well, first of all, I think the city of Cleveland and Northeast Ohio did a great job. There were rave reviews nationwide about what the city did. As far as the draft, in my opinion, and I say this every year, it's just too early to tell. On paper, it looks good, but paper doesn't play. I like what they did, from a receiver standpoint, getting a very fast receiver. Picking up the running back from UCLA. Does that tell me is Chubb? Is the other running back escapes my name.
Hunt. Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt. I mean, or one of these guys, are they not going to sign him? Are they looking toward the future a little bit? Look, the biggest thing is they have 14 new players on the defensive side. So they made every attempt to get better on the defensive side. And I think, time will tell. Joe Woods now has the ingredients to work with. Last year probably didn't have what he needed to. Again, if these players all progress the way they're supposed to, then it could be a great draft. When people ask me, it's funny, what'd you think? And I said, well, everything sounds good, but you just don't know until you see what happens with these players. Are the Browns now in the upper echelon of teams? On paper, yes, I think they are. But again, you don't know what's going to happen with injuries. You don't know what's going to happen with just how things go in training camp. So I think the Browns, again, we won't know, how impactful this draft was probably for another couple of years. I mean, look, when Greedy Williams was taken, people say it was a great draft. I mean, Greedy Williams has played, 6 games at that?
Yeah, so, and he's been in the training room more than he's been on the football field.
You just can't grade a draft, and all these people come out, and they're a lot smarter than I am. Well, this was a great draft. Well, okay, I take it with a grain of salt because you just don't know what these players are going to do on the field. They haven't played a single down of NFL football, and you're trying to grade them. So did the Browns, did they address their needs? Yes. I don't think there was any question about that. Did they improve on paper? Yes. I thought they improved. But as far as the impact, we won't know that until they take the field.
Agreed completely. Dana, always a pleasure, sir. Look forward to catching up with you next week.
Thanks, guys.
You got it. Dana Ball is 21 Sports Director, and I'll even take it a step further. Anyone that sits back and says, well, we're going to make a grade on this, get out of here with that. Just leave. I don't want to see it. You want to do a grade the 2018 draft.
No,
because they've been on the field for 3 years, and you know what they are doing on the field.
When you grade a draft, I mean, you're not grading it based on, hey, we're going to grade it because these picks turned out well. You're grading it because did you fill your need? Did you get the best person available at that need? And did you evaluate? I mean, like I feel like when people say, oh, the Browns got let's say a B+ in this draft. They're not saying B+ means that all those players are going to pan out. They're saying the Browns came into this draft with specific needs. They looked at the players available, they met those needs, and they picked the best players available from those needs that were in the draft. So I think that's what you get when you evaluate and grade the current draft. Not necessarily, you're not saying it's because they got an A because all these players are going to certainly pan out. They're all going to be great. You give them an A because they were smart about who they picked. They met their needs, and they got people that fit into their organization well. So I think when you're grading drafts, at least the smart people that grade drafts are grading it more of that kind of tone.
No, I get it, but you also have the caveat of saying these guys have never seen an NFL field. They haven't played in the National Football League.
That statement is, once again, grading what their impact's going to be on the field, which that's what
that's where you sit back and say, after 3 years,
right,
now we can grade what this draft has been about 3 years down the road.
The two grades are two different tests. I mean, the one test that you're getting your grade on now is, like I said, did you meet your needs? Did you get the quote unquote best person available according to the everything that you have available?
Yeah.
And did you get people that kind of fit into your program, fit into your mindset, gel with the coach, et cetera, et cetera? If you do all that, then you get an A. And I think when you're grading a draft now, that's what you have to look at, instead of looking at, like, people look at drafts now and saying, oh, this is a great draft because this guy's going to be great for us. But you don't know that. This is a great draft because you met your needs and you got the best players available at those needs.
Okay, so then this is where Pittsburgh is going to be, depending on who you speak to, Pittsburgh either was genius or they completely whiffed on this draft. And I'm not going to say they whiffed.
I want to talk,
because I think that this is borderline genius what Pittsburgh did.
First thing I want to talk about Pittsburgh is they drafted someone who I've met and I've been able to talk to a couple of times because he plays for my school. And Presley Harvin, the punter. I know some people are like, why are we drafting a punter? Punters aren't usually people that you waste a draft pick on. You can get them in free agency, et cetera, et cetera. So I get people are mad that, but as far as people go, and as far as I'm so happy for Presley Harvin. I think he's put in the work. I think he's one of the best punters in the country. So I think he earned that spot, and I'm happy that the Steelers picked him. So I wanted to say that. But then a lot of people are mad that they used their first pick on a running back instead of an offensive line. And I think it's one of those things that you go, yeah, but Najee Harris can take a mediocre offensive line and find holes in it.
I don't think any running back can. If you're not in the National Football League.
Derrick Henry can.
Yeah, but Derrick Henry is in front of them. Their offensive line is pretty good.
Ezekiel Elliott can.
He didn't when the Cowboys' offensive line became mediocre. I mean, it's just. But here's the borderline genius move behind this, and you and I talked a little bit about what Pittsburgh was going to do. Okay, do you go out and you get a stud offensive lineman, or do you get a stud running back and then take advantage of a rather deep offensive line? And the Steelers decided to do this. But the Steelers in the second round did something that I think was so sneaky good in typical Pittsburgh. They knew that you have Kyle Pitts, who's way up here. Then you've got the kid from Penn State, who's the second best tight end. And then the stage just completely drops, and everything now from here on out, after this kid is terribly average. No disrespect to anyone, including Tommy Tremble, who I think has a really good chance of being really good in the NFL. But on paper, the tight end class after the tight end from Penn State goes from here way down. So the Steelers are like, we need a tight end. There's no way we're getting Pitts. But if this kid's available in the second round, we got to take him. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck with a mediocre tight end. I thought that was pure genius by the Steelers, where they sat back and said, okay, we're rolling the dice because, now you're going into the third and fourth and fifth round looking for linemen. Right. But this is genius because they got a good, solid tight end. He's not Pitts, but he's the second best tight end coming out of this draft. I thought Pittsburgh did a great job in the second round with their pick, and then they turned around and they said, okay, we'll get a really good center, Kendrick Green from Illinois, and we'll get a guy that's got attitude personified, playing in the best conference in all of college football, in the tackle out of Texas A&M and Dan Moore. I thought the Steelers did a phenomenal job, and yet they're getting crushed because, wait a second, you guys should have taken stud offensive linemen and then worry about a running back because running backs are a dime a dozen. I thought they did a fantastic job.
I think when I brought this up on Thursday, the discussion in the Steelers room was probably how much of our running problem was our actual backs and how much of it was offensive line. And whatever way that scale tipped a little bit, that's what they were going to draft. And they must have come to the conclusion internally that it was a little bit more of their running backs than it was their offensive line, for whatever reason. I mean, I haven't diving into game film to watch their running backs, and maybe they missed some holes that were open for them or whatever it may be. So they must have thought, we need to improve our running back room before we improve our offensive line room. And that was the decision they made. Also said on Thursday that the Steelers have had such good draft history that it's almost like they're above reproach. So whatever they made the decision on, as long as they weren't doing something insanely crazy, which I don't think it's insanely crazy. It's a little bit, off the beaten path, getting a running back instead of the line. But the Steelers are such good at drafting. I trust what they saw.
And enough with the people saying, why would you draft a punter in the 7th round? Have you seen the Steelers punters in the last 10 years? They suck. They just do. And this guy, to his credit, 44 and change per punt. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Even though it's weird drafting a punter or a kicker, this is a no-brainer.
Did you see that someone asked Mike Tomlin if he could be moved to the offensive line because he's like 6'2" and 260. He's a big dude for a punter.
Yeah, he is.
So they were like, hey, can we move him to an offensive tackle?
Look, and you and I have said this on a number of occasions. The Super Bowl, the first 2 rounds are sexy picks. That's nice. You want a Super Bowl team. Super Bowls are won between rounds 3 and 6. That's where you get the good stuff. That's where you're going and getting guys that are either going to make or break your team. Look, the first and second round picks, they're wonderful. Don't get me wrong. But those 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th round picks, that's going to be telling the story of where your team is going to be in a couple of years down the road, because you're going to need those guys every bit as much as you need the first and second round picks. And look, the Steelers went 3rd round, Kendrick Green, center, Illinois. 4th round, Dan Moore, offensive tackle, Texas A&M. 4th round, Buddy Johnson, linebacker, Texas A&M. 5th round, Isaiah Loudermilk, defensive end, Wisconsin. 6th round, Quincy Roche, linebacker, Miami. All of those positions, a need for the Steelers. They did a fantastic job rounds 3 through 6 in terms of fitting their needs.
And now that we've taken care of our local teams, we can move to
except for we didn't do Cleveland's yet.
Oh, we didn't. In my brain we did because we opened the discussion with, but we actually didn't dive into their picks. We just said that they had a really good draft. You're right. So
they get the steal in the 2nd round, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. They drafted really well.
Owusu Koramoah, if he can play in this league, that's 2nd round. That's unbelievable what they were able to do. I wasn't overly impressed round 4 down with the Browns. I just thought, okay, they did a really nice job with the first 2 picks. I wasn't blown away by anything they did after the 2nd round. to be honest. I mean, they did. Look, I think that the defensive tackle from Ohio State, nice to have a Buckeye with the team. Richard LeCount the third from Georgia. Okay, he's playing in the best conference in college football. He's a DB. All right, he'll provide some depth. Tony Fields, the linebacker from West Virginia, it's an okay pick. But Davion Nixon, the defensive tackle from Iowa, was still available. You want to talk about the steal of day 3, hands down, send home the jury. This guy was the number 1 rated defensive tackle on everyone's board, and he was in the 5th round. How the hell does that happen? And Carolina finally said, "Oh, this guy's available? Thank you very much. We'll take him."
Nice. Yeah, someone in the Panthers camp was like, "Can we double check it, triple check it? He's available. You're sure? You're not pulling my check? Okay,
we'll take him.
We'll take him."
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought Cleveland did well. I think that.
And then that guy was, "I'm telling you, if I write this name down and take it to the commissioner,"
and they say he's already gone.
You're fired.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
Fired. You realize that you're fired. Writing it down.
Don't BS me now. I thought the city of Cleveland did a phenomenal job with the draft.
They did.
Please keep that whole setup that they had, the stage and everything. For years, I've been saying that the city of Cleveland needs something like that over by the lake. They need something like that. I hope and pray they keep that stage up. I doubt if they did. But the city of Cleveland, first of all, it's a great city. I've lived there. I've gone there.
It gets knocked on quite a bit.
It sure does, based on their past history. Oh, the Cuyahoga River caught fire, and that was 50 years ago. Get new material.
The stick on the lake, man.
Yeah, those are the people that say that have never spent time in Cleveland. That's a beautiful city. It really is.
How many times have we heard? Who would want to go play in Cleveland? Because it's terrible weather, yada yada yada.
Well, I mean, they're quickly becoming a pretty good team.
I think this was a good market kind of standpoint for Cleveland as a city, for really not just football wise, but just this misnomer that goes around culture that says Cleveland's not a good city. They kind of had a chance to highlight the things that would make the city great.
Yeah, and a lot of folks, and I think there was a TV station up in Cleveland
Did you see
that interviewed.
The guy from Mexico that drove 48 hours from Mexico City all the way up to the draft?
I didn't see that.
Browns fan from Mexico City.
Interesting.
Got in a car, drove from Mexico City to Cleveland for the draft. That's dedication.
Well, that's absolute dedication. Yeah. Well, one of the TV stations in Cleveland interviewed fans from all 32 teams. 31, not including Cleveland, and interviewed people that came from their particular city. And the majority of them said, we had no idea Cleveland was this cool of a city. So, hats off to Cleveland for the draft. That was... And I think the folks in Vegas have a tough act to follow.
2 years away from meeting Kansas City.
There you go.
Let's go.
There you go. All right, speaking of Kansas City, what did you think of your draft?
They got exactly what their needs were. They didn't have a pick in the first round, of course, because they got Orlando Brown from the Ravens. And then the second round, they went and they got the linebacker from Missouri.
Yeah, Nick Bolton.
Big run stopper, big tackler. Not going to give you a pass rush, but the Chiefs don't really need that much of a pass rush. They need someone to clog up the middle of the defensive line. He'll do that. They got a couple of DBs to add some depth on the secondary. They got a receiver, which is someone that I thought they'd go after a receiver because they tried to get Juju. And he's more of the prototypical tall red zone receiver that might help them out a bit from Clemson. I forget his name.
Cornell Powell. Yeah.
He's more of, he's not going to be the quote-unquote Tyreek Hill, the speedster, small speedster. He's more of the bigger guy that can get the hard balls in the middle of the field and help them out in the red zone. So I like their draft. I think they met their needs and they did a really good job. And then, of course, you need more offensive linemen. I really like the left-handed center from Oklahoma. And now his name's escaping me as well. But I think Orlando Brown came in and said, hey, I played with this guy, and he's going to do great here. And I think that was one of those inside scoops that the Chiefs got from bringing in Orlando Brown.
Creed Humphrey is who you're talking about.
Creed might be
which is a boxing name.
Right, and he's a left-handed center, which you don't see a lot of. So he might be really a good asset for us.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I liked what Kansas City did. It was they met all their needs.
Their Twitter handle was like it said for the 31st pick of the NFL draft, and it put a picture up of Orlando Brown because that's probably the best thing that came out of their draft was that they traded for Orlando Brown.
I mean he's a proven commodity,
right?
Which none of these kids are. So right now he's the best part of the NFL draft because he's actually played in the National Football League. I mean, as far as my guys are concerned, I think a lot of folks were wondering, where are the DBs? You guys got killed with your lack of DBs. Why didn't you get any DBs until round round 6 when they wound up getting the kid from Wisconsin, Wild Goose, which I think is going to be hilarious when he gets burned, because he will. He went on a wild goose chase.
Well, that's a cooked goose there.
Yeah, that's a cooked goose, wild goose chase, the whole 9 yards. Look, I mean, I've said this. You got to have a pass rush in order to make your secondary good. A great pass rush can turn an ordinary secondary into a good secondary. And I think what the Bills did, they recognized, okay, the secondary in this draft may not be all that, but there's 2 kids that the Bills got where they just ooze potential, especially the Russo kid. I don't think people realize Gregory Russo in 2019 put up numbers that were extremely identical to Chase Young, who was an all-everything at Ohio State University. And Russo did this as a redshirt freshman. Now, he didn't play in 2020 because he was one of the guys that said, I don't want to deal with the pandemic and the whole threat of this. So he didn't play in 2020. The Bills are basically getting a guy that only played major college football for 1 year, and they picked him in the first round. Is it a roll of the dice? Absolutely it is. Does this guy have an insane amount of potential? Absolutely he does. So it's going to be either this guy's going to turn out to be 80% of Bruce Smith, or this guy's going to be an absolute bust and the Bills are going to look stupid for doing what they did. And I don't know if the second round pick is doubling down or insurance just in case Russo is a bust. But here's another guy that has an insane amount of talent, and that's Carlos Basham Jr. out of Wake Forest.
What a name.
Basham, I swear to God, anytime Notre Dame played Wake Forest, this guy was in our backfield. I mean, he is a really good player. And then they finally went offensive line help, and they got this kid out of Northern Iowa who's about 6'9", and he's just a mountain of a man. And I saw him at Stambaugh, and he was just, and everyone else was kind of like here, and he's this really tall dude who has a mean streak. No, I liked what they did.
Does he, like you said, you saw him play? Someone that big, does he have trouble getting leverage as an offensive lineman and getting low on DB?
He didn't have any trouble when I saw him.
Because on the line, low wins, low leverage wins.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So when you're 6'9", I feel like you might struggle. But if he did need it,
I mean, everything that I've heard, and I saw him play, he wasn't bad. I mean, you could tell that he was a cut above. They went with another offensive lineman from a mid-major at Miami of Ohio. They went wide receiver, a guy from Houston, Marquez Stevenson. They went safety with the Hamlin kid out of Pitt. They took a cornerback from Wisconsin, Richard Wild Goose, and they closed up the draft with Jack Anderson from Texas Tech.
It's because we're both ACC fans, and we've probably seen a lot of Hamlin, and that's a name for Pitt's secondary. A really good secondary at Pitt, by the way.
Yeah.
That really sticks out, and I think he kind of might be a sneaky late round get. A lot of DBs that have good careers in the NFL, kind of late rounds. You know, you see a lot of really good DBs fall late, so that might be a safety in Hamlin that can come help you guys out.
You know, and again, rounds 3 through 6, they're the meat and potatoes of the rounds. That's going to determine if you're a Super Bowl hopeful or not.
I saw an interesting tweet, and I want to see what you think about it. Someone said on Twitter that the Chiefs' offense in the last 6 years, even back with Alex Smith, has changed the ways that teams draft wide receivers. They're going for the small, fast guys first, rather than the big, strong guys, which was what they used to go for. Do you think that's true? Do you see a more trend where teams want to copy and paste McCole Hardman, copy and paste Tyreek Hill, copy and paste Sammy Watkins, etc., where they want the fast guys that can burn you down the field rather than the big guys that can go in the middle and catch tough balls?
Well, I think that we're seeing more than anything else the advent of the slot receiver has been abundantly apparent, and that's where the little guy normally goes.
Right.
You can have a burner who happens to be a little guy on one side, and then your big possession type of receiver or guy that is going to be the complete mismatch on the other side, and Kansas City did that, you know, in some ways. In other ways where they just sat back and go, okay, we'll go all little all the time.
Right.
I mean, I think that there are teams that are going to look at Kansas City and say, hey, this might work. Well, here's the problem. You don't got Patrick Mahomes, so none of this crap is going to work.
You know, the people are looking at that saying it worked with Alex Smith, too. But one of the big reasons why it works is because they have Travis Kelce.
Well, yeah, you got to have a monster tight end in order for that to work.
I mean, it's a big plus when you have a tight end that can go play in the slot and be your slot guy as a wide receiver.
Yeah,
not every team has that luxury.
I don't think that. I think it's a perfect storm when it works, and I think you brought up the fact that the tight end, you got to have an all-world tight end in order for this to work.
But to your credit, in the NFL, when people see a perfect storm, what do? Try to bottle it up. They try to bottle it up and use it themselves.
How many teams, when Seattle went and won the Super Bowl with the Legion of Boom, how many people decided, we're going to get the DB that's 6'2" and that can go lights out and hit people like crazy? Well, I mean, the big reason why you want to do that is because there are still guys that are 6'3", 6'4", and 6'5" that are being taken as a wideout. You got to have a guy 6'2", 6'3" in the defensive backfield to make sure that big guy on the offensive side doesn't get all the jump balls. So I mean, carbon copy stuff, I get it, but I think teams sit back and think they can steal someone's formula when you don't have their ingredients. So, I mean,
it's like
I don't think it's going to work anywhere else because, well, nobody has Travis Kelce.
Right.
I mean, now Atlanta it might work.
San Francisco.
Yeah. Atlanta it might work now that Kyle Pitts is there, and even though he's never played the game, I think a lot of folks believe Kyle Pitts is the next big name in terms of wide receiving core.
Who do you think is the biggest winner of the draft?
I'll tell you in 3 years.
Okay, well, based on what I said earlier, the grades of not what impact they're going to have, but who met their biggest needs and who got the best players in that spot, I'm going to say Chicago. I think they got the best draft. I think Chicago really drafted well.
And that normally doesn't happen.
Right, which I was like,
yeah.
What are we talking about, Chicago?
Yeah, well, I mean, they got Justin Fields, which they went up and got him.
Right.
Now, did you see Justin Fields' reaction?
Right, yeah.
He wasn't too happy. I mean, now I'm sure
Well, that's because he's going up to compete with Nick Foles and Andy Dalton, and Trubisky's still there.
No, he's in Buffalo now.
Oh, you guys got it?
Yeah, we got Trubisky. There's nothing to laugh at. Hey,
he's pretty laughable.
Okay, well, he's a playoff quarterback.
Oh.
I mean, if God forbid if Josh Allen goes down, we'll have the best backup in football.
He was on a team that got to the playoffs. It's different than the playoffs.
Well, no, I mean, look, I mean, he is a player that went to the playoffs.
Ron, when they got him, you were very upset about it. You walked out of this office thinking like we were thinking that Ron might drive his car off the side of the road. Because when D-Day told you that the Bills picked up Mitch Trubisky, you weren't pleased.
Oh no, I wasn't. And then, you know,
but now he's turned.
But now I'm thinking, but only if Josh Allen, God forbid, hurts himself, then I'm going to be a little pissed. But no, I mean, the Bears did okay. They did pretty well, and they doubled up on some offensive linemen and did pretty well. Atlanta, I thought, had in terms of meeting their needs, I thought Atlanta did really well.
I thought they would choke in the 6th and 7th round.
Yeah,
but they.
Yeah. I want to see what they do with Julio Jones.
The Packers are just like they keep making the same mistakes.
Well, this is now year 10.
It's like wide receivers. We don't even look at them.
Yeah, this is year 10 where they went first round pick. Oh, we're going to go defense, or the only offensive player we're going to get is the guy that's ultimately going to replace our guy. And I'm like, wait a second. How the hell do you not give your franchise quarterback something in the first round over the last 10 years? How does this happen?
No wonder he wants to host.
Yeah, exactly. And then they turn around as if to troll him and say, "Oh, we'll give you a wide receiver. His last name is Rodgers." Oh, okay. Yeah, and they got him in the 3rd round. I'll tell you one guy that has to be. I think he's happy that he's out of this team and out of the dysfunction, but he has to be pissed knowing the Jets picked up all kinds of players on offense. And Darnold's got to be like, where the hell was this stuff when I was your quarterback and you didn't help me with anything?
What are you talking about? They picked offensive play. They don't do that.
Yeah. By the way, Carolina over the weekend picked up Darnold's fifth year option, and today, no surprise, Edmonds and Allen were both picked up for their 5th year.
Were you surprised that Trey Lance was the 3rd quarterback to go?
Stunned.
The 49ers blew smoke. Like they
did.
They were Mac Jones.
Yeah. Oh boy, did they keep that a secret?
Trey Lance.
Yeah, that was out of left field. That was, and I think they used the friendship that Sims has with the head coach because they were teammates in Texas, and I think they used
good call.
They used the the guy from ESPN, the football guy. He's really good friends with the front office. They used these two guys. I mean, and not in a bad way, but they used these two guys to set up the smoke screen of, oh, we're going to take Mac Jones, and Mac Jones is going to be our guy. And then when you see the curveball, you're like, what just happened here? And then I don't know what horseshoe Belichick has up his ass, but Mac Jones drops all the way to 15, and Belichick's like, I got no worries. I got my franchise quarterback now. So, I mean, at least on paper he does.
Yeah, Bill Belichick was like,
yeah,
that was the perfect prototypical Patriots quarterback. We just thought there wouldn't be a chance for him to get it.
Oh yeah, I mean, he only completed the highest completion percentage in the history of modern college football.
He's a pocket quarterback.
Yeah.
He's not too loud, so he's going to conform to the quote-unquote Patriot way.
Yeah.
He's just the prototypical. I feel like he fits perfectly in the Patriot.
Kind of remind you of someone who recently left, who had a crazy amount of success in New England. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Let's hit the brakes a little bit.
Well, no, I'm just saying it kind of, I mean, he has a long way to go, obviously.
I didn't even know this, but there was a commercial back in the day where Mac Jones was in it as a little kid with Cam Newton, where he was like, Cam Newton comes off the bus and he's like, yeah, you can be whatever you want, man. Just keep dreaming, keep doing it. And the kid's like, can I replace you at Carolina? Become your mom's favorite player? And then he's sitting there doing this, and he's like, I'm just loosening my arm.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And someone was like, that's Mac Jones. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Time really jumps at you.
Yeah. Well, all I know is New England got
So now
they get their future quarterback.
What's Cam do? Does Cam just
Cam's gonna be just like Fitzpatrick
Fill
and
out
Tyrod Taylor and everyone who has had their moment in the sun, and now they're gonna be the guy that teaches the young kid the ropes, and then
is he the
leaves.
starter to start?
Oh God, yeah. Jones isn't going to see the light of day this year in New England.
Not even if Cam starts really bad?
I mean, maybe by the 9th or 10th game if Cam stinks the joint out, but I don't expect Mac Jones to be...
Because if Cam has a year like he did last year, Mac Jones is in there pretty quick.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. All I know is the AFC East got a whole lot better. At least on paper, it got a whole lot better. We'll see if these kids...
And the Bengals did what we thought they'd do. They went and got the receiver.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Bengals listened to their quarterback and didn't say to their quarterback,
"Shut up,
shut up, and let us do the pick." So if he gets hurt,
they did the same thing that the Steelers did. Though they said, and last year we talked about this a little bit. They got the best player available, and for the first round, they said, forget our needs. We're just going to get the best player, period, that we think, and that's what they did. And it was a deep offensive line draft. They went and got some offensive linemen later, and hopefully they'll be okay for Burrows to be protected.
Yeah, but here's the difference. If you have an opportunity to get a guy who is... Nothing's a guarantee in anything in life in general, but... This guy is as close to a guarantee as you're going to get, and you pass on him not because you passed on him, because your quarterback said, "Well, I want to throw to my guy who was part of my magical season." Okay, I understand everyone's going to look at that and go, if we get these two guys together, we might see Burrow go off like he did at LSU. That's not going to happen if Burrow has to constantly look around and make sure that he isn't going to get killed before he throws the ball to his team. And in other words, Jamar, get open in about a second and a half, because that's all the time you're going to have, because this offensive line isn't going to do its job, and your boy Burrow is going to get destroyed. And I say that knowing that this organization is stupid and not allowing Billy Price to be a starter on this team.
When the coach and the GM were like, let's get the wide receiver, someone in that room could have went and turned on the Super Bowl and have been like, this is what happens when you have a patched up offensive line. Even if you have the freakishly strong quarterback, this is what can happen.
Exactly. I just...
Right there. Right. See that?
And I knew in our little thing, and by the way, you beat me. Congratulations.
I'll bring you a Royals hat.
Look, I so wanted the Bengals to actually be the grown-up in the room and say, for the sake of the life of our quarterback, not the literal life, but the football life of our quarterback, we got to go with Sewell. And this is a no-brainer. No, they're the Bengals. And this is the reason why the Bengals can't have good things. Because they just they don't deserve a spot in the grown-up table.
It might work out. They might have a good enough offensive line, and Joe Burrow and Chase might go off and have an incredible year. Who knows?
They better hope and pray Jackson Carman from Clemson is every bit as good as they think he is. Otherwise, you've destroyed your quarterback, all because you wanted to reunite him with his receiver. That's why the Bengals can't have good, nice things.
Like you said, you can't grade a draft until and that goes for the things that we think are bad.
Exactly. I mean, there's an insane gamble that the Bengals chose to make, because they only took 2 offensive linemen in this draft this year. They took Jackson Carman in the second round from Clemson, and they took Dante Smith, the offensive tackle from East Carolina, in the 4th round. Now, this Dante Smith or Carman may be legit, and they might solidify this line. And if they do, then Cincinnati struck gold. And all the naysayers like me, who on paper think that this was stupid, them taking Jamar Chase, will be proven wrong. And like I said, I mean, it's this in terms of what they are doing on the field, this gets crumpled up for 3 years because you can't. You get a. I mean, if we want to talk about who hit a home run in the draft, let's go to 2018 and say who hit the home run in the draft. Looking at the 2018 draft and saying, what do we have here?
Once again, two different tests.
Exactly.
And one test is what did you do right now to evaluate your needs and get the best players available. And then the next test is, did you pick good players? Because at the end of the day, a player can look as good as you as the best player, and he can just not work out in the NFL.
I mean, it's just like anything else, just like in any sport.
I want to bring this up because this is the most ludicrous thing I saw on social media all week. Now, there are knocks on Trevor Lawrence. There are reasons why he might be a bust. One of the arguments that I saw on Facebook, though, that really threw me for a loop was that he won too much and he won't be able to handle adversity. So we are knocking the kid for being too much of a winner. He won too much, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
That's just I couldn't believe it.
From that perspective, if you're putting it in that context.
He's never lost a regular season game from high school to college.
Yeah. If you're putting it in that context, then I'm kind of like, what the hell's wrong with you? But if I put it in the context of what is Trevor Lawrence going to be like when he loses 2 games, or he's going to lose more games than he wins this year.
Here's my argument. You can go through adversity without losing on the football field.
Oh, of course.
And I am sure there are plenty of moments in Trevor Lawrence's life when he's had to come back from, whether it be an injury, a personal crisis, whatever it may be. So to get to that level and to be at that elite level, you have to go through some stuff. So I'm not worried about how he's going to handle losing, because I feel like even if he hasn't lost in the football field, he's lost at something. You're very lucky if you go through 23 years of life and don't lose at something.
No, I agree with that. Agreed wholeheartedly. But in terms of losing games, this is going to be something that, frankly, we've never seen. Right. Trevor Lawrence, from junior high to high school to college, has never lost a regular season game, which I find absolutely incredible. The fact that he had an undefeated junior high, an undefeated high school, an undefeated college. This man has never been beaten in a regular season game. He suffered his only loss
in a national championship
game, and then his second loss in the national semifinals when Ohio State finally had enough of Clemson and decided to beat them for the first time ever. It didn't harm him when he lost the national championship game. He came back and had a really good year the next year.
Exactly. He came back from losing. I don't care if it's not a regular season game. He lost.
Yeah,
he lost.
So that from that perspective, I'm like, wait a second.
I couldn't believe there was an argument that you won too much. I was like, I couldn't handle it.
No, I think if you could have had a better argument if Lawrence had lost the national championship game and then his team went mediocre the next year. Okay, now you have somewhat of an argument, but the dude went undefeated the next year. I mean, and he didn't have a bad year. He had a pretty good year. I mean, it's not like the loss to Alabama, or I think it was Alabama, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the loss to Alabama destroyed him. I mean, if anything, he went back, won the national championship, and then the last year he played. Okay, well, we struggled against Ohio State. All right, well, your coach had a lot to do with it because he was an a-hole during the whole process, and Ohio State had enough of him. Look, I mean, is he going to be in a foreign type of atmosphere when his team finishes 5-11, 6-10 this year? Absolutely. Is that going to permanently destroy him? God, no.
I guarantee if he's a bust, it won't be because he won too much.
No. If he's a bust, it's going to be his offensive line murdered him in his sleep. Because he's not going to be a bust in terms of his playing ability. That's no.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that just no. The other thing that I kind of stirred the pot a little bit. I got to be honest. I kind of stirred the pot on this, but unlike other people, I prefaced this by saying it won't happen. But draft night, when the bombshell of all bombshells dropped, where Aaron Rodgers, someone in Aaron Rodgers' camp said, Aaron Rodgers will never play football in Green Bay. He wants out. If the Packers don't trade him, he'll leave. And I thought about this and then wondered aloud, how many teams would be legitimately interested in an Aaron Rodgers? And then I thought to myself, would Cleveland, of all teams, not using any draft picks or anything, just go straight up, Mayfield for Rodgers? And if I were Cleveland and somebody said Aaron Rodgers, but give me Baker Mayfield straight up, you couldn't get me to do that faster. I would do that in a heartbeat. I would do it now. I would do it at any point in time and say, thank you very much. I will take your future Hall of Fame quarterback, the reigning MVP, and I will gladly do that. I'll gladly have him for the next 3 years before he calls it a career. Having said that, it's never going to happen.
I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Because, Aaron Rodgers he'll get you stats, he'll get you wins, but there is something about that guy that makes him extremely hard to work with. And the Browns are up and coming. Like they haven't been established great. They're fragile right now. Their success is fragile. And to bring in a guy that is prickly, hard to work with, doesn't get along with others very well, I don't know if that would mean instant success for Cleveland. Just because I don't think it would. I think he'd have to get a great relationship with the coach, which apparently he had. We all thought he had in LaFleur. They looked like they were getting along great. Now he's like, I don't want to ever play in.
Well, I think that's more to do with the general manager than it is to do with LaFleur.
So, but if he doesn't get along with the coach, he won't get along with the general manager. If he doesn't get along with the general manager, he won't get along with the quarterback. He'll find reasons to make drama, and he's getting more and more tiresome, in my opinion. He hasn't won a championship since 2010, even though there have been years where he had everything he needed to win a championship.
Well, they haven't given him squat in 10. They haven't given him squat in 10 years. In terms of the first round, which is just laughable.
There were years where the Packers were good enough that you could say they should at least get to the Super Bowl. Maybe not win the Super Bowl.
But there have been a couple of teams. Yeah.
Look, I know Tom Brady is Tom Brady. He went on a really good run.
Oh yeah, but Green Bay should have beaten him.
But Green Bay should have won that game.
But let's be honest, Aaron Rodgers should have had the ball in his hands.
Well, he should have just said, "I'm staying on the field, and you guys can stay."
Well, yeah, but then
what's LaFleur going to do?
He's going to call a timeout and drag his ass off the field and say, I'm the coach, you're my player, and get your ass off the field.
And then Aaron Rodgers is really gone for good.
Well, he's gone anyway.
I know, but at that point, you're like, we need to.
Now, let's also say.
Because I guarantee Tom Brady would have. If Coach, what's Tampa Bay's coach? Arians?
Yeah.
If Arians would have been like, we're going to kick the field goal here, Tom Brady would have been like, no, we're not.
And Arians would have said, yes, we are.
Not in the second half of the season. Tom Brady put his foot down after they lost to Los Angeles and said, we're not doing this anymore. This is my team. If you want to win, you do things my way. And ever since that game, they were a championship team.
Yeah. That's, look.
Because he let Tom Brady take the reins. So, if Aaron Rodgers would have had that alpha mentality and said, we're going for it, period.
It wouldn't have worked.
I think it would have.
They would have sat back and said, you've only won one Super Bowl. Stop with this.
But he's the MVP, right?
Exactly. And now this discussion is there's only been 2 MVPs that have ever requested a trade or have stepped away from the game. Norm Van Brocklin in 1960 and Jim Brown, who was doing the Dirty Dozen out in Europe, and Art Modell was fining him on a daily basis because the production was late, and he was late getting to camp, and Jim Brown finally had looked at all the fines and said, screw this, I'm having too much fun as an actor, I'm done with you, I'm done with football. And he turned his head toward football and said, "I don't want to do this anymore." So I think that Aaron Rodgers is done with football because I don't think the Packers trade him, and I think Aaron Rodgers finds himself. In other words, the new Jeopardy host for 500, Aaron. You're on the MPVivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's going on, champ?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
I watched the entire draft. I even clipboarded the first round like I always do, always curious to see where all the good players come from. And once again, they all come from the SEC again for how many years in a row now. In fact, they had a record this time, amount of players drafted from that conference. I think it broke their own record twice over.
Oh, yeah.
But I get some inside stories on this Cincinnati situation with their first draft pick. I was reading a lot about how the Lions at number 7 were trying to trade up with Atlanta the day before the draft. I'm thinking, because the rumor everywhere, it seems like the Lions were wanting to trade up to get one of those receivers. And I thought, why would the Lions want a receiver at this point, to be honest with you? So I heard they were negotiating also with teams 5 and 6. And I'm thinking, boy, they really want this receiver bad. Well, apparently they didn't want the receiver. They wanted, and I read something about this lineman. They asked an expert, I said one of the experts asked them, who's the best player of this draft? He says, the guy that has the best chance to go to the Hall of Fame from this draft is the Oregon lineman, the tackle.
Yeah.
He might be the best player in this draft, a dominant player. And I'm thinking, well, Cincinnati's going to draft this guy, no doubt. I mean, that's an obvious choice, but they didn't. And then the Lions, after trying to get to 5 and 6, get it done, the next two teams, Cincinnati, Miami, both draft receivers. And I guess there was a big cheer because they got their guy. This is the guy they wanted for a long time because I don't know how you pass up a tackle that they talk about him being in the Hall of Fame. I think Cincinnati made a mistake by not grabbing this guy. I'm sorry.
Well, listen, I think this tackle is the best offensive lineman to come out of the draft since Joe Thomas.
Yes, and I think what makes it really special, especially for the team like the Lions, who are always looking for positive things, is they already have on this offensive line the tackle from Ohio State, who's been really good, Taylor Decker. They have obviously maybe the best center in football right now, Frank Ragnow, who when he came out was the best center. And now you put this Penei Sewell on this line. They got Ty Crosby, they got Jonah Jackson. This is a very deep, and the one thing they did not do for Stafford when he was the quarterback, they never had a running game. But all of a sudden last year they started getting a running game, but they couldn't stop the run last year was the problem. But I like what they did offensively. And, boy, that's a good, solid offensive line, and they fixed the defensive line. Finally, they're doing something they started to do when Stafford first came on the Lions and they got Dominic Sue. But in his later years, they tried to, like, Band-Aid it, get a receiver here, get this. But they just totally disregarded the defensive line and the defense and the running game, and that's why he's not in Detroit anymore. But I'm encouraged by them, and I'm glad they were able to get that guy. But I think a lot of teams, especially those 6 teams ahead of them, may regret, maybe not, except for the first couple picks. But Cincinnati, I think, made a mistake.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And Cincinnati made that mistake because they listened to Burrow instead of having the front office tell Burrow, hey, you're our player. You're not the decision maker. We are. Know your role, shut your mouth, and we're going to take care of you.
And probably the reason why Justin Fields wasn't too happy, because when you look at the teams in the NFL, in my lifetime, you could make an argument that the team that's had the worst set of quarterbacks are the Chicago Bears. They maybe had one quarterback for 1 year in 1985 with Jim McMahon. Other than that, who's the next best quarterback they've had there?
Sid Luckman. You got to go way, way, way the hell back.
Right, and even you and I aren't old enough to remember that one.
Yeah.
But but that's probably why he wasn't smiling, because they've done a poor job of quarterbacks up in Chicago. Whatever, but I still think that Justin Fields is a terribly talented quarterback. And I read also that the Lions were actually Justin Fields was their second choice, believe it or not, at number 7 besides this offensive lineman. They liked him a lot.
Huh.
So, but they chose the lineman. I think they made the right decision.
No, I absolutely. When he dropped to 7, I was like, well, Detroit needs to get him, because if they don't, they're out of their minds.
Yeah, I guess the war room, there's a big... Now, I got to tell you another Lions story. I don't know if you saw this story where the Philadelphia war room. Philadelphia, the Eagles had the 70th pick, and they had some guy who thought he was going to be real smart, and he says, we're going to trade down 3 slots, or 3 slots, because there's 3 players we like, and we'll get one of them at least. Well, apparently that's not what a lot of people in the war room wanted. They wanted this one particular player. And they said, well, what if he gets caught? Well, that's all right. So what happened, Detroit at 72 picked the player they wanted. And it was that O'Neal defensive lineman. And if you saw the highlights, they were trying to high-five each other. They wouldn't even high-five him because they were not happy. And for once, I finally saw where instead of someone saying, oh, we got the guy we wanted, even it was an 800-player pick, but they were not happy in that war room. And if you saw that, you have to Google that and watch that. It's pretty hilarious. Because that guy traded down 2 slots. He thought he'd be really smart, and the guy they wanted, Detroit picked right before them.
Yeah, Ali McNeil from North Carolina State, and then Philadelphia turned around and they grabbed another defensive tackle from Louisiana Tech, Milton Williams. So, I mean, they knew their need was the defensive line. They were going to go defensive line in the 3rd round, but, yeah, Detroit beat them to the punch.
And that's the guy they wanted. The other 2 guys were okay, but they really wanted this guy, and apparently that was the lack of communication because they couldn't understand why they just traded down 3 slots and they lost the opportunity to get the guy they really wanted. But whatever, it's Detroit's gain on that one. So Detroit's 2-0, but that's the best record they've had in a long time.
You can talk about a Detroit team doing well because Lord knows the Tigers, the Red Wings, and the Pistons are not worth talking about right now.
Actually, they have those supplemental picks in the NFL draft. I think the Tigers got one of them yesterday. I think they did. I started to mention. I heard the NFL commissioner mention the Detroit Tigers are up next. So they're so bad they're participating in other sports drafts.
Yeah, I can now say nobody fit the criteria of, quote, burying themselves in the month of April this year. Everyone was within 8 games, and nobody buried themselves. So we don't have that to talk about the rest of the year. Thank God.
Well, how come there's a bunch of shovels in my backyard with the Tigers pennant in the ground?
Oh well, I mean they're now 9.5 games out. They weren't 8. Yeah. They weren't 9.5 games out or 8 games out in April the 30th, on the end of April 30th. So that's always good news.
The weird thing is they're getting really good starting pitching. That's the bright spot of the whole team. But this is the worst hitting I've ever remember being a Detroit fan. Maybe you go back to when they lost 19 in a row in the early 70s when Ray Bear was the pitcher. When they lost, they were horrible. But I don't remember them being this bad hitting for this long period of time. This whole team is just in a huge hitting slump. It's really bizarre and depressing. But unfortunately, it is what it is. But the starting pitching has been pretty good. Detroit standards.
Hey, look on the bright side. There's a pretty good chance you get the number 1 pick in the 2022 Major League Baseball draft.
Man, we already have a reserved parking space for that because we got the number 1 pick 2 of the last 3 years.
Ron's just throwing the dirt on you, man.
I'm just
mercy
saying.
From Ron.
Look, I know this is we have a long way to go, but Detroit is 8-21 right now. The nearest team to that kind of a terrible record is Colorado, and Colorado's 10-18. So Detroit's 2.5 games behind Colorado for the worst, or ahead of Colorado for the worst record in all of baseball. They have a 2.5 game lead on Colorado for the race to the number 1 draft pick.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's okay with me. It's different than football, obviously, because you don't see it for a while. But it's just terrible, bad hitting. And let's talk about bad. When you got a guy 3rd and no outs, and they can get him home. It's unbelievable they can't get that guy home. But that's teams go through that, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm ready for. Let's see what I'm ready for. I'm ready for the Lions, actually. Already.
There you go.
So that's pretty bad. But anyways, it was fun watching the draft. But you're right. I don't know why someone doesn't make a lot of money and do a 3 or 5 year review of all the draft picks. Then that we should grade them then.
Oh, I don't know why. Where is Mel Kiper when it comes to that? I think someone should definitely say, or at least come out with, okay, who really won the 2018 draft? Who really won the 2017 draft?
Ron, you be that man. Come on, let's do it. You want it so bad, you do your research and do it.
Yeah, I don't know if I still have it or not, but do you remember when the USA Today had a weekly newspaper and it was on the newsstands every Wednesday? and for whatever reason they decided to cancel it, and
because newspapers are dying.
Well, yeah, that's probably one of the big reasons why. But I saved the NFL draft from 2016, 17, 18, and 19. Now I just got to find it, and hopefully I still have it, because every once in a while you throw stuff out.
Sometimes that household that Ron is just a black hole.
Oh, I'm telling you, have no idea. You have no idea. You think socks get lost? No. Important stuff gets lost in that black hole.
At least you found your Wheaties box.
Well, I did, and it's still in pristine shape.
Good news, we're going to have Ricky Giuliano call in after a break and talk about the YSU baseball series.
Yeah, that was... UIC said, we're going to pay you back, and they did.
But now they're even 4-4, right?
Yeah. So. I mean, and there's a pretty good chance these two teams are going to be playing each other in the first round of the Horizon.
After playing like a really clean 1-0 game on Friday, things went south really quick.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and the scary thing is,
I think the toughest one to lose was the second.
Floyd losing the first game of the doubleheader,
right,
is what.
That and then there's no reason they should have lost game 2 of the doubleheader.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to Richie about it.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll talk with Richie about that. Champ, anything else on your mind, brother?
No, that's all I got. I'm glad that draft is over. Now you look forward to the free agency period and all that stuff. But football's an all year round sport. But I'm looking forward to the future.
Are you going to be shedding any tears when Aaron Rodgers tells the Packers, "That's it, I'm done. I'm not coming back"?
Is it something about putting that Green Bay quarterback uniform on that you become a diva? The number one.
It's a requirement.
Brett Favre is the all-time greatest diva, according to a poll we watched on TV once. He was number one in the top 100 divas in NFL history. He was number one.
About that. I mean, some of the.
Oh yes, he is. He was number one. He was a diva. Believe me. Everything is about Brett Favre. Everything.
Some of the receivers were much more divas than Brett Favre ever were.
But he's a great quarterback. Just ask him.
Receivers are divas every time they step on the field.
Well, listen. I mean, the quarterback does share some advice with his backup quarterback. I'm just saying, Brett Favre did have a little bit of a little bit of arrogance and diva.
I don't think Brett Favre ever talked to Aaron Rodgers the way he was.
But you can make the case that Rodgers looked at Favre and picked up on that trait, because they're both pretty out there in terms of being a diva.
I'll agree that they haven't given him the weapons, but they've given him over the years, like they did with Favre. They gave him a really great offensive line and a pretty good defense, and to me, that's just as good as having receivers.
Yeah, but you got to have a home run threat.
Yeah, but even a majority of those 10 years between the last time Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl, their defense hasn't been that good. I mean, it has the last 2 years, but before 2 years ago, even their defense was subpar at best.
Yeah, and then the 2 years that they were good was the defensive coordinator that they just got rid of based on the stupid decision that they made toward the end of the first half when Brady looked at the defensive alignment and said, "Oh, this is easy pickings," and scored a touchdown late. And everyone looked at the former Browns coach as if to say, "What the hell did you just do?" And they fired him not too long after the championship game. So.
Well, that was a fireable offense.
Well, of course, but I mean, those 2 years in which the Packers were really good defensively was on his watch.
Right.
So I mean,
I don't know what happened, what he was thinking.
Oh, he had a brain fart. There's no question. And unfortunately, he sharded himself, and the organization sharded themselves. And,
he shipped his pants with Kmart shipping.
Yeah.
But you know what? I just think when you mention teams that like, for example, Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield, I just don't see these teams trading their so-called franchise quarterbacks for Aaron Rodgers. I just don't think it's good for the team. It's horrible for the locker room. Now, I could see maybe a trade like Rodgers for Russell Wilson. That's a different situation. Maybe two quarterbacks that would rather be somewhere else.
Yeah, but I mean, Wilson has proven that he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. The other two that you mentioned haven't. They haven't done anything.
I don't know. I think it would do a lot of damage to the Browns and the Raiders if you traded Rodgers for their current quarterbacks. I think it does a lot of damage in the locker room because the teams are behind these guys right now to become leaders. I think it's a big mistake to just take him on for 1 or 2 years, whatever, to win a Super Bowl. I disagree with it.
Listen, I think Cleveland would have a much better chance at winning a Super Bowl with a much better quarterback. And I wouldn't say that to very many quarterbacks because Mayfield is, he's done well. But look, I mean, he's nowhere close to Aaron Rodgers' talent. Not even close. I mean, he's good, but he's not even in the same district or area code in Rodgers' talent. That's why that deal would be enticing. But I understand your guys' point in that. Would it destroy the locker room? Yeah, a pretty good chance it would, which is another reason, one of many reasons why the deal would never happen.
But I would argue that after Brady, he's the next best quarterback in football. He's terribly talented. So I agree. I think he's better than any quarterback that most teams have right now. But I just think that, he's kind of, like I said, he was doing Jeopardy a couple of weeks ago. Maybe that's what he wants to do. He wants to be a Jeopardy guy. I don't know.
I'll throw this out. I think if there is one team that will ultimately get him, Denver.
Yes. And you know what? I think they screwed up already by not getting him. I don't get how they didn't get a quarterback in this draft. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think Denver would be a landing spot for him.
Let Denver keep Drew Lock, and we'll be fine.
Could you imagine that Favre, Rodgers and Mahomes 2 times a year? That would be phenomenal.
People were saying that Brady might go to Denver, and he skirted away.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
You know what? Being a Raider fan, I wouldn't mind Rodgers going to Denver because I don't think he's going to be there long, number one. Number two, they're going to give up a lot of first-round picks in the future for him, and that's going to hurt Denver and help the other teams in the division.
Yeah, I don't think that the road is officially closed in Green Bay. I don't see how the Packers can possibly convince Rodgers to come back and play for him. I think that
the funny thing is, like, Aaron Rodgers himself hasn't come out and said anything. These are sources close to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. And I honestly believe this was done on draft night as payback for Green Bay taking his heir apparent on draft night.
Right. So I thought that too. I said, well, this is just.
And I think that he's petty enough to do something like that.
Absolutely, he is.
Yeah. So I think it's hilarious that he dropped that bombshell on draft night. I thought that was just incredible drama.
Well, the best way to really tee off a starting quarterback is not draft receivers or not draft anything else, but draft a backup quarterback. That seems to really get them mad, doesn't it? All these quarterbacks, they draft a quarterback of the future, and they all seem to be mad about it. Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. What's the big deal? You're not going to play quarterback till you're 50 years old. Jeez.
No, but by the same token, I mean, I think in Rodgers' case, I would be pissed too because you didn't give him anything in the first round for 8 years, and now you're going to turn around and draft my heir, draft the guy that's going to follow me. You didn't do anything for me in the first round for 8 years, so now it's 10 years because they didn't draft a guy on offense again this year. So I can understand to a degree what Aaron Rodgers' problem with Green Bay is. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand where he's coming from.
Well, I think if you're using Jeopardy, I think the answer is Green Bay, and the question is that's where he'll end up because I think it's all about contract. Now I hear he's negotiating another contract. So maybe it's all about money again. Here we go.
Who knows? All right, champ.
All right, good show, guys. Thanks.
See you, man. 330-886-0813. Richie Giuliano coming up next. We're going to talk YSU baseball. Stick around. It's a Monday edition of Running Point.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in the Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
This is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
If you're looking for a quality pre-owned vehicle, why shop anywhere else but Tri-State Ford? Choose from our great selection of pre-owned vehicles. Plus, we've got you covered with our exclusive Tri-State Ford Advantage. It includes a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty with your pre-owned vehicle and much more. Come see why so many customers from the Tri-State area buy their pre-owned vehicle at Tri-State Ford.
Customer focus, community driven. Tri-State Ford East Liverpool or visit tristateford.net.
No matter what the weather, be prepared with a reliable, efficient Ruud gas furnace or air conditioner from MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Call your energy efficient expert, MP Vivo, today for a free estimate.
Here at MP Vivo, we rely on Ruud, and so should you.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Rain will come and go tomorrow. There'll be some dry intervals.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
Years ago, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods began with 3 siblings, a hand-set sawmill, and a few local orders. And while business has certainly changed over the years, what has not are our principles of hard work, craftsmanship, and commitment to quality. At Baird Brothers, we're proud to put our name on the products we create, from moldings and doors to flooring and lumber. Thank you for 60 great years. We look forward to 60 more. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Welcome back to a Monday edition of Running Point, presented by the good folks at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hardwig, who is doing his best MacGyver impersonation. What the hell are you doing over there?
Sorry, I pulled up too close to the table and unhooked the wire from the headset, so I just had to fix that real quick.
All right, he MacGyvered it. Put some chewing gum on the end of it, and now it works perfectly. All right, I'll tell you one thing that's working perfectly: our YSU broadcasts of YSU baseball. The guy behind the microphone doing YSU baseball joins us on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline, the one and only Richie Giuliano. Richie, how was Chicago?
Oh, I mean, it was just great. I mean, the weekend, you couldn't ask for much better weather. I mean, it was perfect all weekend long. I mean, just the stadium there is gorgeous. I mean, if you saw on my Twitter account, I posted a picture of it. I mean, the sky drop in the batter's eye is just anything, you'd ever imagine in a Chicago skyline. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a beautiful setting. There's no question about that. And unfortunately, after the first game, there was nothing beautiful about this series against UIC. And, we've made mention, UIC came into this series on an 8-game winning streak. Youngstown State had come into this series on a 5-game winning streak. Something was going to break. And my goodness, 1-0 Penguin victory in game number 1. After that, it was all UIC.
Yeah, tough weekend for the Penguins. I think the second game was the biggest one. I mean, you had that big win on Friday and beat their ace, and Jacob Key, who was the 2019 Pitcher of the Year in the league, and then Colin Clark throws you a gem, goes 8 innings, preserves that bullpen. In game 2, you come out and you got the Colin Floyd, your ace, and they actually hit him well, and it's tough to see. And Floyd, he's been so good all year long. He was due. I mean, it's the first time somebody's beat him in about 2.5, 3 months almost, and his loss at like LSU or Troy. So it was due there. But then game 3, when they had that big lead 7-1, and then the floodgates just opened up in the 8th inning. I mean, they had 3 consecutive home runs to take the lead in that 8th inning. And one thing about that ballpark and why it's so hard to win there is because of that wind. And, it's called the Windy City for a reason. 25 miles an hour blowing out towards center field. You put the ball in the air, it's going to fly.
Yeah, and one of the things about this weekend is, man, the Penguins were rolling. They were hot. They were coming in feeling good about themselves. But so was UIC, and now the Penguins have to kind of bounce back from adversity, which is going to be what the big talk about this week is going to be. How do they bounce back? How do you see this team bouncing back in the next couple of weeks as they try to, jockey for positioning in the Horizon League tournament?
Yeah, and I think it's nice that they have the easier part of their schedule coming up. I mean, you already knocked out the big dogs. You played Wright State twice. You played UIC twice. Still got Milwaukee left in the final home series, but now you have Purdue-Fort Wayne this weekend, who's really coming off of a bad and bludgeoning weekend against Wright State. They got just pounded by Wright State this past weekend. And Purdue-Fort Wayne this year, that it kind of just seems like they're falling away from the track a little bit, and they might be giving up. So this is a big series for Youngstown. I think if they take 3 out of 4, that'd be a perfect weekend for them. Even a sweep would be nice. And then they picked up a non-conference 3-game series against Bellarmine, who's a new Division I school, and they've kind of been struggling a little bit. So Ron and I were talking a little bit off of there. This is a big month stretch where they could come out and they could win 8-9 games in a row. And next thing you know, you're the red-hot team going into the tournament, because realistically, that's really all that matters if you're the team going in to the tournament hot. I mean, that's really what you want.
And look, let's be honest, unless Milwaukee turns some stuff around, and they're on a 9-game losing streak, other than Purdue-Fort Wayne, they're the coldest team in the Horizon League. Unless they turn some stuff around, the 2-3 matchup in this tournament has been decided, and that's UIC and Youngstown State. Now, unless Wright State craps on themselves, and look, they're on an 8-game winning streak, I don't think they're going to be doing that anytime soon. This tournament's going to be played in Dayton, Ohio. If UIC and YSU are playing each other in the first game, Richie, you know as well as I do how important that first game is in a 4-team double elimination tournament. This might very well be the best team or the best game in the tournament.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And I think we all know coming into the tournament in a few weeks that UIC and Youngstown State are going to meet in that 2-3 battle. The only thing that's up in the air right now is who's going to be hitting in the bottom half of the ninth. So that's what they're really battling for right now, because like you said, Milwaukee just went ice cold. I mean, they had a terrible weekend against Oakland. And Northern Kentucky's a team that's kind of creeping up there. And what's really nice towards this end of the Horizon League season is Northern Kentucky is a game behind Milwaukee for that 4 spot, and NKU has to play UIC. So Northern Kentucky's playing for something, and we're playing Milwaukee, and they're playing for that 4 spot. So it's kind of cool to see that both teams that are fighting for that final spot are playing the top 3 teams in the league. So it's going to be a competitive final weekend in Horizon League play. It's going to be a fun weekend.
And that's got to be a benefit to whoever gets that 4 seed because, Wright State's been great, but they pretty much had a tournament locked up when the season started. I mean, let's be the way Wright State is and the way they're set up. They haven't been playing quote unquote meaningful games because they've had that 1 seed locked up for a while. They'll go into a series with teams that have really, for the last 2 weeks of the season, are going to be playing win or go home type series. Do you think that's going to give them an advantage? I mean, as much as an advantage as you can have against Wright State in the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Wright State teams they're playing the final weekend, they're going to be pretty much folding up. So those series won't mean really much at all. Just kind of sharpen it up for the tournament next week. It's really tough to play Wright State on the road. I think it does give YSU and UIC an advantage because they're playing competitive baseball all the way through. But at the same token, playing at Wright State is very tough. Their field is all turf. They're used to playing on their field. And let's be honest here, Wright State almost is pretty much undefeated at home in Horizon League play. So it's a pretty big challenge and a steep mountain to climb when you're playing at Wright State. I know the Penguins and UIC, both of those teams did not have much luck playing in Dayton, Ohio. And once they get a crowd there as well, that's a nice atmosphere that they'll have in the tournament. But at the same time, like you mentioned, I think it does have some type of advantage that both UIC and Youngstown State are playing competitive baseball all the way through. As for Wright State, they play some teams that are pretty much folding up and they're done.
Well, I'm looking at the future schedule, and I will tell you right now, Wright State is playing Milwaukee this week in Dayton. And if you're talking about Milwaukee, this is it. You're going to have to go into Dayton, and you're going to have to win 1 or 2 of these games to hold off Northern Kentucky, who's playing at Oakland this weekend. And depending on what happens, I mean, let's be honest, Wright State, they'll win at least 3 of those games against Milwaukee, maybe even sweep them. Oakland's been playing incredibly well. They're home to Northern Kentucky. But then the next weekend, Milwaukee and Northern Kentucky play each other. So you're looking at this from the standpoint of Youngstown State. We're pretty sure they're going to get into the tournament. We're going to be positive they get into the tournament by the end of this weekend. In terms of YSU should be able to knock off the Mastodons pretty simply. Milwaukee should get beat by Wright State pretty convincingly. Northern Kentucky and Oakland should be beating each other up in Oakland. Youngstown State will wind up clinching a playoff spot conveniently by this weekend, if not this weekend, next weekend when Milwaukee and Northern Kentucky play each other.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a great weekend for some Penguin baseball, just a chance to clinch a spot in the playoff, and that's all you can ask for, right? Anything can happen once you get into the playoff rounds, and I think it's nice that Youngstown State has 2-3 quality good arms that they could throw against Wright State and give them some fits. I mean, Penguins beat Wright State 3 out of 4 at home. Those are their only 3 losses in the conference. So, I mean, the Penguins do match up well against Wright State. The only problem is they're playing on the road, which is tough. But it's a big weekend either way because you clinch a spot for the Horizon League playoffs, which is always big. The only question, like I mentioned earlier, is if you're going to be playing in that home spot as the number 2 seed or the away team as the number 3 seed.
And with the season winding down a little bit, you've had the chance to travel with this team, call all their games. What has been your experience like? And I got to imagine that doing this has just been a thrill for you. I think you're probably the best announcer in the conference, and we're not just saying that because you do it for YSN. I mean, I listen to the TV announcer for UIC, and to be honest, Richie, he didn't even touch you. So what's it been like to travel with the team and to call these games and to have this experience?
And it's really been amazing, honestly, and I can't thank you guys, DJ, Steve Leslie, Paul Munson, all the guys at YSN enough, as well as the SIDs and Dre Smith, John Bogle, and Trevor Parks, all them for their help at Eastwood Field as well. And, I want to thank the coaching staff and Coach Bertolini, Coach Smith, Coach Vanell, and Coach Davis. They have welcomed me with open arms. They've really helped me out. Anything I ever need, they supplied to me. And, they give me food. They give me a hotel room, which I'm grateful for. And, just to be around these guys, be around this team, it's been a fun year. And, this program's really turning around in the right direction. This is the first time ever that Youngstown State has 20 Horizon League wins in a single season. And it's also the first time since 2010 they've won 20 games overall in a season. So, this is just a record-breaking year for the Penguins. These guys are great. They're funny to be around. They laugh, they joke. It's all fun and games, but they take it serious once they hop on the diamond, which is really, something that is nice about this team. And you know what? And just traveling the country in the Midwest, like being able to go to Chicago, seeing Curtis Granderson Stadium. There's been a couple places that we have been. Going to LSU, you can't beat some of these venues that you're going this season. So it's been a fun time, and I really enjoyed my experience. I just can't wait to get to this Horizon League tournament, because that's when really everything starts to amp up a little bit. Games are going to be pitch by pitch, and, they're highly anticipated. So I just can't wait for this. And once again, I'd just like to thank everybody who's helped me out throughout this journey. It's just been a great experience.
Well, hopefully the Penguins bounce back in a great way against the Mastodons. And look, their situation is really good, but they're also a bad weekend away from making that situation a little tough. So hopefully they bounce back. They knock out Purdue Fort Wayne 3 out of 4, or sweep the 4-gamer in Youngstown, bounce back, taking on a really young team out of Louisville. And is it Bellarmine?
Bellarmine, yeah.
Bellarmine, and then 4 against Milwaukee, who could be cooked by the time they come into Youngstown. So, look, Penguins could go 10-2, 9-3, and be hot going into the tournament, which would be great.
Oh, yeah. That's all you can ask for right now. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the easier part of your schedule. You already knocked out the big dogs. Now it's time to get reps in. It's time to win games. It's time to get hot and get that energy going into Wright State, which is going to be a real fun weekend. And, it's kind of interesting how this tournament is set up. You got to bring your A game. If you have one bad day, you are done. Because if you lose Thursday, that first game, you play again Thursday night. And if you just don't have it that day, you're going to be going home on Thursday night.
Now, Richie, you follow the baseball team, but you also work in the sports department. You're a student on campus, and man, what a time for YSU sports! Not just the baseball team, softball team, the golf team won a Horizon League championship. What's the feeling around the sports department right now with so many teams having so much success this spring?
Yeah, this is a great time for the spring sports. Football had a struggling spring season, but other than that, everybody else has really been lights out. Both the golf teams are good. Tennis teams are really good. Softball and baseball are performing at a high level. Softball just clinched that first seeded Horizon League berth, I guess you could say, regular season championship. And, it's high energy right now. Everybody wants to win, and everybody's cheering for each other. I know when we're on the road traveling, we're watching the softball games because they usually play earlier, like 3 and then 5. So we're all watching it on our phones, and, it's just fun. It's just a fun time to be a Penguin right now. It's great to see that our spring sports are really starting to turn the corner.
Hey, enjoy the ride, because it's hopefully the ride is a little bit longer than just the regular season and a token couple of games in the conference tournament. Hopefully this team gets a conference championship and gets into the NCAA tournament.
And I'm also guessing the finals are approaching, right, Rich?
Yeah, we got finals all week.
So good luck with all your finals as well, and keep doing the good work for us here at YSN and for YSU Baseball.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
See you, Richie. There he goes, Richie Giuliano, the voice of the YSU baseball program, as the Penguins look to be in good shape.
No one talks about how these teams that are fighting for position at the end of the season, whether it be YSU or any team in college sports, right up with finals week as well. So they're in high-pressure games, must-win games, but they're also finals week, and it's high pressure, in the classroom as well.
Oh yeah,
just can't say enough about the student athletes at this time of year that put in the work for the finals, and then also have to be playing at their best level for the end of the season.
Yeah. Well, after this week, a huge exhale for everyone,
Right.
where it'll be okay. Now we can
all baseball.
Now we can go all baseball here, and let's see what happens. But again, the Penguins had a rough weekend in Chicago, but relatively speaking, they're still in pretty decent shape. The magic number is at 8.
7?
7, I beg your pardon. And, they're in relatively good shape. We expect Milwaukee to get hammered by Wright State. I think Oakland, who's coming in on a 4-game winning streak, will be able to do something to Northern Kentucky. So, the magic number should be down to 2, 1, or maybe there's no magic number anymore. The Penguins win the damn thing and get into the tournament. And clinch a tournament spot, and then let's have some fun.
You said it. There's only one thing left to do.
Win the whole bleeping thing.
Win the whole bleeping thing.
And look, I mean, I've said this. In a 4-team double elimination tournament, all you need to do is go on a 3-game winning streak. 3 wins get you to the NCAA tournament.
If you win the first 2, you're sitting in the driver's seat. Because then someone would have to beat you twice in one day.
Yep. Exactly.
So
I think that if a team wins 3 games in a row going into the tournament, or in the tournament, you win 3 games in a row, there it is.
Very interesting. I've been looking at the bracketology for softball, because softball tournaments are a little bit ahead of baseball, and the Horizon League's coming up. That's a week, not this weekend, but next weekend, right?
Yeah.
That's the 13th. Anyway, they have right now the bracketology predicting YSU to win the Horizon League, and if they did, they would be going to the Arizona Regional out in Arizona. I thought for sure they'd be going up to Michigan or down to Tennessee or somewhere closer, but they're having right now is this isn't official. This is just people's predictions.
Sure.
Arizona, and they had US.
Where do they have them seated? 3rd or 4th?
Fourth seed in the region in Arizona. Now, that's not new, because in 2019, when UIC won the Horizon League, they sent them out to Arizona, so I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, and don't be surprised if the YSU women win the Horizon League tournament. We certainly hope they do. Don't be surprised if they are the 4 seed, because they're a mid-major, and mid-majors normally get low seeds.
They're a mid-major that didn't dominate the conference. They won it. They won handily, but they weren't just absolutely undefeated in the conference, not even being touched. So when you don't do that, it's hard to be a 3 seed, because 3 seeds usually go to the at-large conference teams that come in. So usually the South Carolinas or the NC State, those type of teams that aren't winning their conference tournament but still getting in at large, they'll sneak into that 3 seed.
Yeah, YSU 26-6 in the conference, 33-11 overall. But don't be surprised if they're the 4 seed in whatever NCAA tournament they get in, assuming they win the conference tournament.
Which really, once you get in the regional, it doesn't really matter. I mean, what seed you're playing, you're going to have to play the 1 seed eventually in either way.
Sure.
So 4 seed just means you have to play the 1 seed first, which might work out for your favor, because first game of the weekend, 1 seed's a little rusty, hasn't played in a week. Maybe you can sneak up on them a little bit.
Yeah, who knows?
And YSU has the pitching. So
yeah, they definitely do.
The good thing about that is they can maybe keep themselves in a game if they can get in the offense against these big pitchers in the Power 5.
And I think you can say that about both teams. But for the baseball Penguins, you got to get into the conference tournament first. Right. You're not officially in, although it looks really, really good, considering the 4 teams behind Youngstown State are all struggling in a big way.
And then you got to win that tournament.
And then you have to win the tournament, which Wright State's going to have an awful lot to say about that. It's going to be in their facilities, and, well, Wright State is an elite program. Even mid-major, it's an elite program. So they'll have a lot to say about it for sure. We'll take a timeout, be back to wrap this Monday edition up. Stick around, more to come.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
News doesn't stop after the sun goes down. Sometimes you just have to hustle to get it. At 21 News, no matter how far it is, no matter what it takes to get there, we're working to bring you the best stories and the freshest content at 11 p.m. with the context and clarity that makes it worth staying up for, no matter what time it is. 21 News at 11 with me, Aaron Simonek, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 11, news that's worth your time.
WRS Wealth Advisors is the area's premier wealth and retirement specialist. With our combined 70 years experience and comprehensive wealth strategy, we assist our clients attain their goals. Call 330-965-0370 to learn more about our individual and corporate financial planning services, or visit wrswealthadvisors.com. Good luck, athletes!
At Greenwood Chevrolet, we go the extra mile for you.
By finding you the right vehicle at the right price.
And by being with you for every mile of your journey.
Now, we're going the extra mile for you with an additional $1,500 on your trade. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well-appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
For heating, cooling, and indoor air quality, the Mahoning Valley trusts MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning, offering worry-free repair, service, and installation. Call MP Vivo today for a free estimate.
MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. We're your energy-efficient experts.
If you're looking for a new Ford vehicle, why shop anywhere else but Tri-State Ford? Choose from our great selection of new Ford models. Plus, we've got you covered with our exclusive Tri-State Ford Advantage. It includes a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty with your new Ford. Come see why so many customers from the Tri-State area buy their new Ford at Tri-State Ford.
Customer focus, community driven. Tri-State Ford East Liverpool or visit tristateford.net.
Welcome back as we close up shop on this Monday edition of Running Point. Good to announce that minor league baseball is back tomorrow. I got I'm Facebook friends with the broadcaster for Akron, the Indians AA affiliates, Jim Clark, putting it out that tomorrow night he begins his 28th year of broadcasting Indians minor league baseball and 24th with the Akron Rubber Ducks.
Time for some DuckTales.
DuckTales. Oh, yeah. There you go. The pop culture reference comes in. So Jim Clark and Marco Lanave will be broadcasting Akron Rubber Ducks baseball this year as the Indians AA affiliate begins tomorrow night in Akron. So best of luck to the Akron Rubber Ducks and the Altoona Curve, who are the Pirates AA affiliate. They begin their season tomorrow night. And, just good to see minor league baseball back.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks from tonight, the Mahoning Valley Scrappers begin the minor league baseball, not minor league baseball, but the Major League Baseball Draft League. Kids that will be in minor league baseball as ASAP The draft league begins 3 weeks from tonight in West Virginia.
When do those rosters get built?
They haven't even announced who's going to be on the rosters yet. So, over the next 3 weeks.
Clock's ticking, dude.
Yeah, over the next 3 weeks, there's going to be a lot of announcements in terms of who's going to be going where. So there you go. All right, Power Hour is coming up next.
By the way, no games tonight.
No, it's raining, and rain and baseball, they don't go well together.